We need to reset. We need a hard reset because last night, whether you're a NASCAR fan, whether you're anything but an England or an Argentina fan, or you're a UFC fan, you didn't have a great night. It was a disappointing night. So we had to bring in the big guns to reset the vibes. So for the first time I think the first time this season, joining us to break down this Quaker State 400 in Atlanta kicks off in about 7 hours. Of course, we have Taco. Taco,
howdy.
Ready to roll?
You bet.
And the owner, the leader, the chief of the DFS Army, Kevin Geek Allen, is back on the show. Kev, welcome back.
Special appearance for plate racing. You know, my specialty, Brady, is pure carnage with no real anything else going on. I love it.
Yeah, that's why we brought you on, because this is not my specialty. We saw, I mean, yesterday, Taco, it's funny how much I ate my word, because yesterday in the show, we talked about how I was coming around. Historically speaking, I'm not a big plate race fan, but I was coming around to Atlanta, and then we just had the worst race of all time.
You mean the best race?
Well, depends on your perspective, but ultimately, Justin Allgaier gets the win, and our win picks, Parker Retzlaff and Carson Quaffle, finished second and third. But I think the thing we forgot, all roads lead to Justin Allgaier.
God, yeah, this is supposed to be where the field's allowed to catch up, but they're not giving him a break. And all three of the cars, I think, on the podium were Rector had spun out at some point. It was truly a matter of attrition. A new all-time record. I think it was 17 cautions for the O'Reilly Series race.
And a Mason Maggio top 10.
Yeah.
Like, just ludicrous. But anyway, we move on. The good news is I think this race will be better. It should be better. This race has been very, very good for the last couple of years.
I think it's like top 2 or 3 in the good race polls consistently. Should be like top 1 or 2 at this point now, with Kansas and Michigan races not being all that great over the last year. Like, these finishes have been these races have been bangers. Surprisingly, I was really worried that this track wouldn't run that well when they reconfigured it. I've been proven very wrong in that regard. Very happily proven wrong, because they've had some incredible races here at Atlanta.
And Kev, I know that you are a big plate race guy. What is it about the plate racing that just makes, from a DFS Army perspective, why is it been so lucrative for us over the course of the last couple of years?
It's really simple, and you know, the edge, you know, it squeezes down as people learn, but getting into plate racing, the main thing is people refuse to ignore the big name pay-ups and just accept the fact that in these contests, a lot of the scoring is going to be random, and, you know, a name that you normally hate, like a BJ McLeod, can easily outscore, you know, Chase Elliott. And that's just what it is. Like, there are times when you need to click that button. So with plate race, and this one's a little different, but with plate racing, what I like about it, and what I like about any DFS contest, where I like anything where there's a little bit of an edge that the field doesn't really acknowledge or can't bring themselves to embrace. And so I think what you do is you lean into that and you super embrace it. Now, with that being said, I'm going to kick a question back to you guys. Love, you know, Daytona, Talladega. Part of the fun of those tracks is they're 2.5 miles. And so you just don't wind up with that many laps, and the dominator points can be ignored. And you could really go hard on ignoring the top line, the top, 10 or 15 guys. So my question for Atlanta is, this being a plate style track, but without the extra length and with a lot of laps, right? Without the lowered number of laps, can we attack it the exact same way as Daytona and Talladega? Or is there an adjustment to the strategy that we're going to employ here, or that we'll see in the historical data that say, oh, no, you want to, because, you want to make an adjustment. So hopefully those questions and more will be answered today.
Yeah. And I think it's a great question. And I think it's an answer, or the answer to the question is becoming more and more important over time. And we saw it yesterday in the O'Reilly race, Taco, for the first time, that in a new Atlanta race, the field was very bunched together. at the start of these runs, but as the runs went on, it started to stretch out, and we didn't have that pure pack like we do at Talladega in Daytona, and that can be attributed to the wear at a track like Atlanta. That track's starting to wear, become more abrasive, and handling is becoming more of an issue as we put more and more years on this track.
Yeah, and we'll go through the historical data and kind of look at the trends here. Now, in the spring race, we did have a giant wreck here, which usually doesn't happen as much. But yeah, you've seen, yesterday happens more in that series where, it kind of got single file after a good little while, and really what would bunch them back up would be, some shit box coming back out and spinning after already wrecking 3 times. Like, that's what caused the quantity of cautions that, quite frankly, we're probably not going to have today. I wish I had my caution props back here, but I would guess it's somewhere around like 8 or 9, maybe 10 expected cautions. So nowhere as bad as yesterday. But
do you anticipate that field stretching out in the same way it did in the O'Reilly series?
Yeah, I think so. And we've seen it kind of trend that way more and more as, since the reconfigure of this track. This would be our 10th go at it since then. So we've kind of seen the evolution where it looked almost like, very, very similar to Daytona and Talladega early on. Now it's kind of stretched out into really its own sort of thing. It's the guys in the very, very, very back. They don't score. They get lucky top 20s instead of lucky top 10s. Seems to be the trend.
And I think the further we go along, the less and less we're going to see unique winners at a place like Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Like, I still think we're in that sweet zone where a guy like Stenhouse, a guy like, a front row motorsports guy, a Zane Smith, or even like a Daniel Suarez could win this race. But I think the further we go with where on this track, the less that will happen. And the more it's going to kind of migrate back to the Penske's, the Joe Gibbs, the Hendricks that just have the handle to be able to run these long runs.
Yeah. And you see some guys taking a liking to this track specifically and not being as great at Daytona, Talladega. And you see vice versa of that. Like, for example, Daniel Suarez is just, for whatever reason, extremely good here at this exact configuration. Stenhouse consistently like in the top 10, as we're at Daytona and Talladega. It's usually either checkers or wreckers for him. You've got some guys like Chris Buescher who have not had any success here, but are elite at Daytona and Talladega. The front row guys as well. Like, it's interesting to see that, this really kind of become its own track.
Yeah. Okay. So if this is your first time joining us, and Kev, first time joining us, what we're going to do here, we'll go through pit road stuff a little bit, not super relevant at a place like Atlanta, and I don't anticipate fuel saving being a part of this race, at least in a predictable way. So we'll gloss over pit road stuff pretty quick. We do not have practice to go over, so we don't need to do that. We'll hop into some strategy stuff. Then we'll go through the driver by driver, talk about every driver in the field and their prospects today. After that, we'll do some sim work. We'll do some... We'll build some lineups, and then we'll look at some of the sports books and Kalshi, see if there's any opportunities today. Then we'll get you out of here, hopefully in around an hour and a half. Won't take you too long.
No chance.
Did you say no chance?
No chance.
No.
I'm here for it though. We got 7 hours until the race.
I wanna say what up to Mr. Sider, always joining us. Not happy with how Conor McGregor's return went last night. I agree with you, Clint. Premeditated, smash the like button. Appreciate that. And I hope everybody else does the same. Larson for the win today, says James Tucker, and not so much carnage due to the O'Reilly race having so many cautions. I tend to agree with you because I do think the skill level in the Cup Series is obviously a little higher, but these cars are a little more planted to the ground. So I do think we'll see a little less carnage. Though we did see like a 32 car wreck here last year or in the spring. I don't remember. You can definitely lose salary this week. Agree with you. Split runs, 1 carnage, 1 chalky safe. Ken is speaking my language. Okay, before we hop in to some pit road stuff, Kev, we got some news, me and you and Taco.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, leveling up the offering over at DFS Army. So we've kind of been building this fast lap product over the course of the last 6 months. It's kind of been its own thing on the side. New starting this week. We're going to start to integrate it all this week. Your DFS Army now includes full access to all the tools at fastlap.io.
So if you're already a DFS Army member, you probably already have access because I think a lot of you guys participated in the beta. So you guys all got free access for life anyway. So a lot of DFS Army members probably already have access. If you don't, shoot me a message on Discord. I'll get you signed up to Pro. But all members moving forward of the NASCAR package on DFS Army will also get access to Fast Lap Simulator, Power Rankings, Head-to-Head, Grid Predictor, all of it. It's all included. The only way to get access to all that stuff is through a DFS Army membership. And we're really excited about that. This is a huge suite of tools for our NASCAR package now. And Kevin, as part of that, we've talked you into it. Biggest deal ever for new members on dfsarmy.com. Promo code FASTLAP. I should have put a thing. I'm not even doing my job correctly. Promo code FASTLAP gets you 15% off. Is it any membership or just the NASCAR one, Kev?
All the NASCAR memberships, but it'll work for VIP as well. So basically, the code FASTLAP, you'll get in there. We want more people. We got a lot of people watching these shows. We're putting DFS Army helmets on the top of these NASCAR every single week. No one compares to it. And now with the FastLap edition, it's just more research, more tools, simulation, everything anybody could possibly want on the NASCAR side. So yeah, you can get in there on a NASCAR sub, get 15% off. I always recommend doing the yearly. It's just savings to do it that way, and you'll get another 15% off that. So any subscription though, VIP as well, and just get everything that we do.
Yeah, and that's a hack. Listen, the NFL deals are going to start coming out soon, but I doubt they'll be any better than 15% off. So if you get signed, if you're going to do NFL this year, use code FASTLAP. You'll get 15% off any membership, and that'll be as big of a deal I think we'll have all year. Kevin, you might correct me, but yeah, really excited. Sorry, go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting, and it's kind of the start of what we're doing at DFS Army with leveling up the tools, bringing on additional data, using the current power of sort of AI development to analyze and really focus on doing the things that help you guys and us win tournaments each week, and that's going to be the focal point. You're getting that here, so. Yeah, I advise everybody to get signed up there. Take advantage of that big deal. Support Brady and the FastLap product.
Yeah,
appreciate that. Super cool. So, yeah, definitely get in there, check it out, sign up for the monthly. Yeah, you're gonna start winning more NASCAR contests. You need the domination station, need the projections, need all that stuff. Yeah, we can watch the show and handcraft some lineups, but man, it's a lot better when you got Deezes on your side.
Yeah, and FastLap's cool, all that stuff, cool. But ultimately, the optimization station or the domination station, is worth the price of admission at its own. But you'll also get the research station. You'll get our driver notes every week. Taco works so hard on the research station. Like I said, the domination station, everything else. You get access to the Discord that we talk about here, where we're talking about this stuff all the time. And then you also get all the FastLap tools. Code FastLap. Get signed up. We've had some huge winners this week. I swear Tristan has started a race team this year. He has won about 60 grand or 50 grand or something like that this year. And he's just ripping legend car races all across the Northeast, winning races everywhere. So dfsarmy.com/pricing or /NASCAR, code FASTLAP. Get signed up. We can't wait for you to join us and give us like I said, it'll be a little clunky as we integrate everything, but shoot me a message on Discord. We'll get you all sorted out.
There we go. I have jumping back over to this race. So I see I'm looking at the research station, and I'm looking at my favorite chart, DK average by start, and we'll get to the other one too, the historical winners. But one really interesting thing so I always love to open up this chart as the first thing I look at for NASCAR. Hey, what kind of track is this, right? And if there's one interesting note here. Your standard plate race will normally, when we're looking at the fantasy points column, it's very linear. It's like the lowest working its way up to the highest as you get to the highest or the furthest back starting point. But what I find interesting here is that the one-hole starter does not seem to be operating at the classic plate track disadvantage. 39.4 fantasy points per game to the driver on the one hole, compared to, you see all the other ones that are starting up top 10 to have that poor scoring. But really interesting that the lead, whoever gets the lead, in this case, Ryan Blaney, I believe, on the lead, has not been terrible. So is this the plate race where we don't fade the number one starter?
It's almost like how the O'Reilly Series races have been over the last few years, where we get some Austin Hills here for sure. We've had, guys lead big laps off of the pole. I think both of us, me and Brady, are a bit more interested maybe in Logano starting second than Blaney on the pole, but it's absolutely viable as we go through. Look back at the you've got Logano, Elliott, Reddick all making the optimal from the pole, all leading tons of laps. We've seen Logano lead 140 here, Elliott leading 96. That was early on in this configuration. We haven't seen it quite as much. We did see a pole sitter win to start, this year with Reddick, with his insane 5-win start to start the season. He led 50 laps, ended up getting in there optimal. We have seen some Dale Earnhardt Jr. level domination here, and it's something that you do not see at Daytona and Talladega. And another thing that I've noticed is the 20s are boosted here. If you look at Daytona, right, or Talladega, 26th and on back, that's where all the fantasy point scoring is kind of hoarded, and it really weights to the back. Here, the mid 20s, lower 20s guys do really, really well consistently. They make the optimal more than any other range here. And, first through 20th are almost kind of even. You've got really the top 10 struggles outside of whoever that one guy is that leads a lot of laps. And as we go through the historical optimals here, we'll see almost every single time, we never have more than two guys from the top 10 in the optimal, but we have seen two of the top 4 guys in the optimal together, which is something that I think the front row at both Daytona and Talladega is a 0% optimal rate.
It's zero.
It's
never happened. Never happened at a Daytona. Never happened.
Yeah, Atlanta's a different beast.
Yeah, I think something that contributes to this, and you can see it, the front row almost always has at least a couple of laps led and a handful of fast laps at this new Atlanta. And the difference between Atlanta and how Daytona and Talladega tend to play out is, at least in early runs in that first stage, we see two lines kind of running right beside each other, and they're kind of trading lead laps, and guys are getting shuffled out. At Atlanta, we don't see that as cleanly. Usually it's one car out front controlling two lines or controlling runs coming from the top or the bottom, and that's where you see these laps start to pile up. So I do think that the pole sitter is much more viable, or more so, the front row, whoever can get that lead and get the opportunity to control that race. We see it. Oftentimes it's Logano. Oftentimes it's a Penske car. They control the start of this race and pile up a good number of fast laps. I mean, 140 laps led for Joey back in 2023 is crazy. And we've seen that number. You can see it earlier in the Atlanta, the new Atlanta era.
How relevant?
We saw more domination, but even last year, we had 50 plus lap leaders.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how relevant is the 2022, 2023 data relative to we saw it with Reddick here earlier, but how much change has happened here to where how much weight should we even put in those earlier races?
Oh, quite a bit. 2022 is a funky season where we really try not to look at 2022 all that much. Of course, 2023 is getting, just that much older. I think with these tracks where we go to twice a year, the 2022, 2023 data, a lot less useful. But we do look at those when it's a track like Michigan or something that we go to once a year. No shortage of data here, though.
Yeah. And another thing to consider that differentiates this with a traditional plate race strategy, this is 267 laps.
Yeah.
There's going to be a dominator. This is not a place where you can go pure place differential. You're going to need to find a dominator. And the frustrating part is that, at a place like New Hampshire, we can predict a group of 5 guys that are going to be the dominators. At Atlanta, got a pretty good shot if you pick one of the Penske cars, but it could really be anyone.
Yeah, and you can see in 2022 specifically, they started this out at 325 laps, so that's going to boost the numbers as well. You do see guys like Logano and Reddick, as we're staring here, guys that wire to wired it. They do actually get fast laps here. That's something that's completely unique. Daytona and Talladega, your Joey Logano leading the whole race would get 0, maybe 1 fast lap. You can get them here at Atlanta. So again, it's really kind of its own thing.
Yeah, and you can. So if we go back and start to look at some of the optimals over the course of the last couple of years, the race here in the spring, just the penultimate, or the that's not the right word. The quintessential is what I'm trying to say. Quintessential plate race build. One guy starting in the top 15, everything else outside of the top 15. That ended up being the optimal. But what I would say is, if I want to sort this by Bing, then Bing. No, then Bing.
Yeah.
There we go.
You
had a couple other guys that were close that started in the top 10. So I think where Atlanta is unique is you don't need this pure place differential build. You can find some guys starting 9th, starting 12th, starting 6th that can get enough fast laps or lap sled to be relevant and not kill your lineups. Whereas if you're starting more than one guy in the top 10 or 15 in Daytona or Talladega, it's probably not a recipe for success.
Brady, as you scroll through these winning lineups, and I think this is one of the most, let's call it, actionable screens on the research station for every race, notice that the finishing positions of the yeses of the was optimal, and almost every single Atlanta track. And I'm trying to figure out how to like math this out and turn it into DFS relevant, action. But in almost every time, your lineup had basically the finisher of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Like, it is crazy.
Yeah.
But in this track, it really it's almost about like predicting the top 5 finishers. It's just that simple. Yeah. Like, look through all of them. You're getting 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8. It's pretty much top 10 finishers, 1, 2, 3, 4, almost always in every single version of one of these lineups. It is just lines up really clean.
And we've never seen throughout 9 current gen races here an example like we see all the time when we're going through this chart of guys scoring points but not being, or scoring more points than someone but not being optimal because of salary. We see that all the time with the really expensive guys, like road courses, short tracks, intermediates, you name it. Here you can almost always afford the optimal because, being a super speedway, usually you're leaving thousands on the table. This slate, however, when we go to look and do the driver by driver, you will notice that may change today. There are a lot of very expensive place differential plays. And if you're hand building, you could find yourself running short on cash, which is an extreme rarity. So I might have to attack this race differently, because usually my core philosophy with these are avoiding the spend up guys, because everyone's got all this money left over that they want to spend. And, you force the DS to use significantly less than the max salary. Here, I don't know, guys might not be able to afford Reddick if they're really in love with a lot of the other expensive place differential plays on the.
I mean, you could make it work.
And people are
you could make it work with Reddick.
Yeah.
You're always going to make it work with Reddick, but salary is not free today. So somebody in the chat is asking, is there a mega chalky no-brainer? Yes, there is that. There's some very, very obvious.
One thing I'll make note of here, which is very interesting, and to Geek's point, there has never been an optimal driver who hasn't finished in the top 10 in New Atlanta.
So you have to be able to finish top 10, and that's why you're not seeing your BJ McLeods.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Your Cody Wares.
You're not seeing as much of the super turds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's the big difference between here and the bigger super speedways. Kind of the point you made yesterday on the pod too.
Do you think that's because it's less carnagey, and therefore those guys just, those guys usually get there because there's just no one left on the track?
Yeah, like I was saying, like those shit boxes, really, they don't make it to the top 10 here. They make it to like 18th if they just survive the big wreck. So we just had like a 26 car wreck here. Like it's I think it was the fall race last year, and like you saw all those guys getting taken out. Still ultimately came down to just guys being able to finish in the top 10. And Yeah, like Brady's been saying, I think you're a lot less likely to get a real random winner here because up at the very front there will be a bit of skill involved. And I do think that Daytona and Talladega qualifying usually is probably is a 0% correlation to how you run at this track. Here, I think there is some correlation. This is more like an intermediate track in that regard. So a lot of the good, the fast cars, they tend to qualify up front and kind of stay up front. You do have your guys that venture from the rear, right? But
why are so many of the studs starting so far back?
Atlanta's a racetrack where you can, so it's an impound race. So you race with the setup that you qualify in. They impound the cars. You can't work on them after you qualify. So some guys just set up purely for the race. You see Toyota do this a lot. They are just purely in race trim, knowing that Atlanta is the type of race where they can cut through the field. And if they qualify poorly, it's not a super detrimental thing. Whereas some teams like Spire Motorsports, Penske's had a really good qualifying package. They balance it a little better. So we see this at the Daytona 500 all the time. You see weird cars qualify towards the front because some guys just focus on race trim, knowing that they can come through the field.
Yeah, and those guys get mired back in traffic. That's when you see some real problems for them. But that's also how, if you build only for clean air, that's how you get a Joey Logano leading 140 laps, just hanging out up front. No one can really do much about it.
So one thing I want to point out here, as we look through every race, every new Atlanta race in the next gen era, if you want to have the optimal lineup, you need what is it called when you've got the first and second predicted correctly? Quinella, whatever it is, trifecta. You need the first and second guy. So whoever's going to finish first and second, they will be in the optimal based on historical stats. The rest of your lineup needs to be in the top 10. We have never had a driver finish outside of the top 10, hit the optimal at Atlanta. We have never had an optimal lineup that didn't have first and second finishers in it. And so that's what your goal is.
Yeah, I mean, just pay attention to the names as you scroll through that list again. And, there's a couple of, what you'd call shitters from the back that made their way in. What's that? Which one?
There's a lot of Stenhouse because bro cannot qualify, but he can sure finish top 10.
Yeah, like, I don't consider him a shitter, though, but you're not really seeing the worst of the worst. There's no Cody Wares in there. There's no Chad Finchams floating around.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see. So Daniel Suarez, almost a 50% hit rate of optimal performance at Atlanta. To Taco's point earlier, he's really, really strong here. Eric Jones, 3 times he's been in the optimal. I'm sure Joey, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., to your point, has been in the DK optimal 4 times. Ross Chastain 5 times. You're seeing wild. Some consistency here.
So much is eye-opening.
Trackhouse are really, really good here. You've seen a few tracks like that.
And Joey Logano only twice, but it's because he's always qualified in the top 5.
Yeah.
And the same can probably be said for Austin Cindric, who always performs super well here. He probably qualifies too high. And Ryan Blaney, who's going to start on the pole, another guy that's only hit the optimal here once because he qualifies so well. But Chastain, Daniel Suarez, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., those are guys with pretty significant optimal hit rates. Okay. With that in mind, do we just get into it? Driver by driver? Taco, do you want to go by salary today? Does salary matter enough, or should we go by starting position?
I think salary matters enough today.
Okay, yeah. There he is. Tristan. We were talking about you early, Tristan.
Hey.
You've just about started a race team this year with the amount of money you've won on NASCAR DFS. Got to be the most prolific NASCAR DFS player in the world right now. How many contests have you taken down so far this year, Tristan? Because it's crazy. Have you taken down more DFS contests or race wins in real life this year? That's what I'd like to know. That's my question for you.
Who's racing? Is there a vehicle? Is Tristan behind the wheel?
Yeah, some late models.
Yeah. It's a legend car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's pictures of him in the Discord of his race car. I'll send them to you later, Kev. Yeah, awesome. And Ken, that's a good point. We're going to talk about Reddick right now. Never forget what Reddick did last year without a front fender on his car. One of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
Just had a damaged winner last night.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Allgaier was dragging everything, and he still won. Okay, let's keep them sorted by salary. At the top of the board is Tyler Reddick. He starts P31, which is unfortunate because I think this is a mispricing. I don't think Tyler Reddick should have been the highest salaried guy on the slate. But he's kind of backed his way into being a pretty elite play by the reality of him being a very good plate racer. I think he scored more points on plate races than anybody else over the course of the last couple of years. He obviously won this race in the spring with no front fender. He finished top 5 the race before. And I think maybe the most important metric in all this is he starts 31st and will have a shot at the top 10, a really good shot at the top 10. This is just a really hard play to get around, and his ownership is going to reflect that.
Yeah, go to the DK New tab just so we can see a bit more broken down of a track history here, because he's led significant laps each of the last 2 here, which kind of broke from a stretch of him really not being relevant outside of like Talladega as far as the super speedways go. But yeah, it's kind of hard to deny bro at this point after a start to the season. It wasn't like an overwhelming win or anything here in the spring, but yeah, this price is wrong. It's just now with the with him starting in the 30s, he's just going to be super ultra mega chalk, but probably not like the 60% owned we'd see if it wasn't for, the plethora of other good expensive place differential guys that'll probably be keeping him in check here, but I would still expect over 50% ownership for him.
So Kev, what I'm curious about is how you approach a play like this that is probably slightly mispriced, going to be super, super chalky because of his starting position, but the chalk is almost justifiable. Are you looking to be underweight on a play like this? Are you eating the chalk? How do you approach these kind of weird slate defining plays? Yeah,
it's super nuanced, but you want to be under the field weight. I don't want to use the term fade though, because that gets misinterpreted and I don't want to use it. But what I'm going to tell you here is this is a plate track. Weird shit happens. You're not making a lot of money by playing a 60% owned driver. If you back test this slate and, try to like embrace the chalk and just put this to 100, it wouldn't even make a difference, even if it works. So like in back testing, I've checked on things like this. And let's say like Tyler Reddick is the nuts. Does your win weight increase by going from like 40% exposure to 80%? And the answer is not really. The guy that helps you win is not going to be Reddick. The one that helps you win is the lower owned name that pops. So in general, plate track, accidents happen. How many chalks can we embrace before we embrace the one that destroys everyone? You really don't want to do that. So I would be a little, as much as I love Tyler Reddick, I don't even worry about him being overpriced because the slate doesn't matter so much. It's just, I don't think you should be over 50% on anybody on a carnage race. And a race where we've already discovered that if you don't catch the 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7 at the end, you are not winning. So, you have to really just spread it around here. Now, in my handcraft, sure, I'm putting him in there. I love Tyler Reddick in a bubble. What more can you ask for than the guy who's owned this track starting with all that play stiff? Like, thank you. Okay. But you definitely don't want to go over the field. You don't want to. A lot of people will tend to say, oh, 60. All right, I'll go 80. I wouldn't do that. That's not how I would approach it.
Yeah. I think so on a normal track, and Taco, correct me if I'm wrong, we consider not even the DNF rate, but the catastrophic incident rate to be 12 to 15%.
Yeah.
At Daytona, 30 to 40. 20.
Well, catastrophic, probably like 25, 30.
But Atlanta, I guess my point is a little less than Daytona and Talladega.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, Daytona Springs, Daytona Summer's like 40%. Yeah. But here it'd probably be like 20, 25.
That's much lower. That's really like massively different, right? That's not close.
Yes.
Yeah. That's massively lower.
So keep that in mind when you're talking about a play that's 54% owned. You're going to throw out 15, 20, 25% of those lineups anyway because of the catastrophic incident rate. And then there's a million other things that can happen. So
yeah, he could also
leverage is pretty useless on a play like this.
Yeah, you could also just run like in the middle of the pack too and just have a whatever kind of day. But really, I like to just find a similar play to compare him to. And it's easy to point to Christopher Bell here, but I like to compare him to Byron. Byron is half the ownership. What's the real difference between these two plays? I think that's kind of the stand I'm making in this range here. Yeah. The Toyotas have looked a lot better, but we just saw Byron dominate a race. I know it's a completely different track type. But that's a sign of life for Byron. And, if Hendrick's going to have more speed than they've showed the first like half of the season. Like I think that's the first thing that really sticks out to me here.
Yeah, I want to catch up on a couple of comments here before I move on to Blaney. Tristan, 4 DFS contest takedowns, 14 wins in real life this year.
We got Dick Trickle.
I've got like 20 wins on iRacing, and I play almost like every other day.
Yeah.
This guy's got 14 in real life.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Shout
By
out
the way,
Tristan.
Tristan has a 12K salary.
Yeah. Tristan, one of many. Like I've been sending swag bags like crazy for NASCAR winners. So I don't know about you guys, but like this sport has been smashing, dominating for us this year. And I love seeing it. I love seeing those helmets up top, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. We're gonna need a couple more likes on this video. Kev's here. When Kev's here, we gotta show love. So if you guys hit the like button, do us a favor.
A lot of people throw the hate out when they show up for some reason.
Engagement's engagement.
Engagement is engagement. Like button, subscribe button. Kevin was also the one when there was a brief moment that we were in a position where we were going to move the show to the other channel. Kev stepped in and said, no. NASCAR stays on this channel. So we got to thank Kev for that too.
No, I got to do the way nothing wrong with the other channel, but the way we're broken it up in case anybody wants to understand it is we're daily sports, the other channel, once a weekers or just kind of what I call weekly sports videos that can live a little bit longer on this channel. And that's just how we've got it broken up. An MLB video is only good for about an hour and a half until it's dead.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we're doing here lasts for a few days or is a lot of what I'm doing right now is really very much evergreen, regular DFS stuff, a lot of strategy and a lot of really cool stuff coming out in the next few days. My book just released the other day, Brady. So we're just diving deep into the NFL data. We'll get into that. I don't want to waste time on this talking about all that.
No. We
rabbit hole to go down.
We can't just glaze by that. You released a book.
Yeah, it's a study of what winning lineups look like in NFL. It's very neutral, just like, all right, we've compiled every single top 100 lineup over the last 4 years. Oh, there we go.
Look at that.
And it's just like, hey, what do these look like? What can you do to replicate this? What can we use? And then eventually, how do we use the domination station to attack these big tournaments? But starting with the very basics of like, what do winning lineups look? And by the way, what winning lineups look like has changed over the last few years, guys. It's really amazing. Like the flex position went from, really 75% wide receiver on DraftKings back in 22, 23 to under 40%, where the rise of running backs and tight ends have happened recently. A lot of changes in the meta are happening in NFL DFS that no one's paying attention to because, hey, Jonathan Bales wrote a book back in 2016 about this stuff, and that must still hold true. Or even Burns's book from a couple years ago, we're seeing, and me and Burns are in communication about my book, but like things that are changing in the meta and effectively, how are we going to replicate what winning lineups look like to win more tournaments? That's what this is all about. We'll have another one coming out for showdowns. So just be ready for a spectacular NFL season coming up where data-driven approaches are going to increase our win rates.
I, for one, love to hear that double tight end is back to being the move. Love that.
It's so back.
It's
back. 20% tight end in the flex in 2020, in 2025 was what won tournaments. 20, not what won, but won at a 20% clip. So 20% of top 100 lineups across the whole season had double tight end, which makes sense if you kind of think about some of the changes to how salaries happen on NFL. That's another thing that changes the results. Salaries change. The way they structure salary, there used to be 3K running backs. They don't have that anymore. It's 4K now. They changed the salaries of things. Still have 2K tight ends, but the cheapest running back is 4. Okay, there you go, right? What does that do? Changes the meta. Good stuff. But
Great
check
stuff.
it out. Cracking the DFS Code is the book. Everybody who's a DFS Army subscriber, by the way, will simply get this book for free. So I have to I'm setting up a PDF that I can share in the Discord, but you don't have to go out and buy it. If you're subscribed, you'll get it for free. Anyway, I'm going to give it out. This is not a profit generating thing. It's just something I put together to help our DFS Army members win more. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah, Ken makes a great point. I'm not doing a great job when this is defaulting to Canadian dollars. Makes this book look a lot more expensive.
Yeah, what the hell?
Way cheaper for you.
What people don't realize is $18 Canadian is like $3.
Yeah, cracking the DFS code on Amazon. Check it out. But like Kev said, dfsarmy.com/NASCAR/pricing. Code FASTLAP. Included in all the other stuff you get. Access to FastLap, access to all the DFS Army tools. You also get Kev's new book. How cool is that, seeing your name up there, Kev?
It is cool. It is
like real author.
Yeah.
That's
I told
crazy.
my mother-in-law. I told my wife to tell my mother-in-law so that she'll be impressed.
Hell yeah.
You're published author now.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, like mother-in-law's like, oh, that's wonderful. Let me call my friends and tell them. You know, like she doesn't know anything what's written there. It doesn't even matter. What? You're an author. That's wonderful.
Business owner, entrepreneur, father, author. That's a pretty good lineup.
Yet I walk around my house and everybody just calls me jerk. So,
okay, let's get back on track here. Next in line is Ryan Blaney, starting P1, and we looked at these Penske guys: Blaney, Logano, Cindric, to a lesser extent Josh Berry. They have kind of been the cream of the crop at Atlanta, but like when we looked at their hit rate when it comes to hitting the optimal, it's been lower than you would think, and that's because they qualify so well, and that's exactly what Ryan Blaney did here. You know, Geeky made a note earlier. Pole sitter a little more success at Atlanta than some of the other plate or drafting style tracks, but I think we'll get down to Joey Logano where maybe Taco, you and I have more interest. But I wouldn't say Ryan Blaney is an on check by any means. I think the dominance that Penske has had on these drafting style tracks, and Atlanta specifically, is certainly worth taking note of. Yeah,
and I think me and you are on the same page about preferring Logano in this spot. You just look at the track history lead laps here, and you know Blaney's gotten a max of like 33 is where Joey Logano's beat that mark several times and very consistently leads a ton. The field loves running with him. So and also just the one place to place differential for what it's worth. Like I'll still have a smidgen of Blaney, but Logano would be the one guy I think in the top, like the front like two rows, that I'd really have any meaningful exposure to here. I think I'm used to having.
Would you make a rule of at most one Blaney and Logano?
We've seen, I think we've seen 1 and 2 be optimal before once, but I would not mind that rule one bit.
Let me tell you something, Taco.
I think I ran like one of the top 4 yesterday.
If playing 1 and 2 is right, I don't want to be right. I don't want to be right in that scenario.
Yeah, I'm with you there, 100%. Yeah. I think that would be really lame if it went that way, but more likely it's just going to be one of these guys. And the thing with the change stages also will be a factor here, because they've made it so the first stage is like medium length, but the second stage is where all your scoring is going to come from. It's a 100 lap stage before 40 lap stage to end the race. That was done to kind of combat the fuel saving. I think a lot of there's going to be a lot of scoring that happens there. So I think the first stage is a bit overrated as well. So I'm really going to try to be underweight on most of these guys. I think it's just Logano I'd have just a smidgen of. And, you know, these weeks so far, the last like month or two have been really, really into Calci. I think it's, you know, the future of like sports booking. And it's weird not having a bunch of positions coming into this race. Right now, my only position is just a Ryan Blaney no that I'm just going to sell immediately. It's very weird.
A Ryan Blaney no?
Ryan Blaney no, yeah. But even then, the value's not that great.
Meaning Blaney does not win.
Yeah. That's what makes Calci good, is just the fact you can bet on no on anything at any time the books don't close.
The best part about the prediction market is your ability to get out at any moment. That is the beauty of it. Yeah. I'm getting a lot of, when I do raw runs, I am getting a lot of like top 10 drivers. So this is going to be really interesting.
We've seen we've had a couple of years where we've had no guys in the top 10, but we've had a maximum of 2, I think, in every single race. So that's just the default rule I'm I'm going to stick to, but I think a good majority of the lineups are going to have 1 or 0.
And we'll move on to Larson here, but one thing I do want to point out, I think you made a good point there, Geek, is like sometimes you just have to have situations where you're okay losing. Mm-hmm. And if Blaney and Logano both hit the optimal today, you kind of just got to be like, sometimes you go to McDonald's and the ice cream machine is broken, just the way it is. Yep. So sometimes you just have to make these stands, and I'm kind of in agreement with you, Geek. I wouldn't be super comfortable having those two guys in my lineup.
No, it just, if what we've described as how this track is supposed to play kind of plays out, it just doesn't make sense for both of them to get there. Now, that doesn't mean it will play out that way, but it doesn't make sense that both of them will get there, because what the data show is that while that pole sitter or whoever grabs the pole, and a lot of times that just happens in lap 1, like they just start off and yeah, you thought Blaney was going to grab it, but then, on the outside, Logano just gets there, and or whoever's starting second. And what ends up happening there is, that one guy does it, but the second guy just falls behind and then falls into the traditional 2 through 10 don't really do that well here kind of group. So that's what I would expect to happen. And if it's wrong, like I said, I don't want to be right. At some point you got to take some stands, and I think that's a safe one to take a shot with.
Yeah, what I'm really hoping for is if you could go to the 2025 Atlanta 2 lap by lap. If this happens, that would be sick. Just Penske immediately crashes out of the race.
Just all the Penske cars immediately run into each other. Speaking of easy stands to take, I think it's pretty easy to make a case against Kyle Larson here, though I think he has mentioned he likes plate racing a lot more than he used to. A guy starting third has never hit the optimal at New Atlanta, and again, we're looking for, it needs to be a guy that'll finish in the top 10. Kyle Larson has finished in the top 10 just one time in the course of New Atlanta, and if you go back to plate finishes in general, just 3 times dating back to Daytona in 2024, I think that goes to. So you got a guy starting third that rarely finishes on the top 10 at plate tracks. Hard to get much exposure to Kyle Larson.
Yeah, it's worth noting in the spring he ran a really good race here, but he did get taken out ultimately. And, there's just so much of like not only just a crash factor, but just a going backwards factor starting third. Like if you're not going to be out there leading a shit ton of laps. And the fact that Penske starts 1-2 ahead of him kind of erases his stage 1 upside.
Chase Elliott will start 7th. I think he's a little more palatable than Kyle Larson. He's been very, very good at New Atlanta, but very, very good at plate racing in general. He won this race last fall in pretty impressive fashion. And you can look at his finishes on plate races, like compare the hit rate of top 10s to Kyle Larson's, and there's a significant increase. Again, not a guy you're going to want to have a ton of exposure to, but certainly more palatable than a guy like Kyle Larson, I think.
I think this is one of the few plays where track history kind of comes into play here. Like, this is his hometown track. He's really fucking good here. His dad is really fucking good here. Both configurations, he's popped off. He's won here multiple times in this configuration. One of the only top 10 guys I really, really don't mind.
MetroCon weather looks like a factor. Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. Kind of the same script as last night, like just kind of 50% all the way. So maybe some stoppages, maybe some thunderstorms, but Atlanta in the summer, I think that's probably just the resting forecast.
Yeah, advantage place differential there.
William Byron starts 26. Something I thought was interesting this week. So if you go over to fastlap.io, you click on the power rankings. What this does is takes a bunch of predictive metrics and just aggregates them to come up with a composite rank. So Atlanta average running position on super speedways, average running position on these tires, dominance at Atlanta specifically, pit crew, all that. When you take all that into consideration, William Byron ranks just behind Chase Elliott in terms of predictive metrics. And while that maybe doesn't always stand out in the finishes, you can see it in his track position, always running in the top 10, always in position to win. He starts 26. And to your point earlier, Taco, feels like a really nice pivot off a guy like Tyler Reddick, who's going to be upwards of 50% owned. Byron probably maybe closer to 30s or high 20s. This seems like a really easy pivot, and this was actually my pick to win the race. I think William Byron is in a really good spot, and he's in really good form now. I think he is the biggest threat to the Toyotas right now on non-plate tracks.
Yeah, thank God. Signs of life from him last week, and yeah, he recently has been taken out a lot, just in these giant wrecks. He's gotten the bad side of things, but I think it's going to keep his ownership down compared to Reddick and Bell. I think they're going to come in way higher owned here. So Byron sticks out as someone I want to play because realistically, there's not much difference between them.
And Kev, I guess when there's these many like place differential obvious plays, is it just play in instances where you can get leverage? Like, what's the difference for you where you look at a guy who's going to be highly owned, high place differential, and say, I want leverage on him versus a guy like Tyler Reddick, who's going to be so high owned, it's going to be impossible to get leverage on him?
Yeah, to get positive leverage is going to be really tricky here. What you'll see are there are some names that have the same play stiff upside, but they're not just getting that highly owned for good reason, probably. But I think some of those names are where one can get a little bit of extra sort of juice going in a lineup build approach. I'm trying to study ownerships really and looking for, okay, who's this name that, like, I'll give some names. We're going to need some low priced value in order to fit Reddick and Bell and Byron and all those guys in lineups together. So it comes down to, like, who are these names that are in that mix that are just falling under the radar? I think like Chase Briscoe and Ty Gibbs, who are not quite all the way far back. And I think that's probably the strategy for this one. Like, we've seen in the data that it's actually those mid-20s guys that tend to score really well here, but they're not extra owned. Everybody's going to the 30-plus starting point guys because they're so obvious. But I would suggest that, like, as long as the driver themselves is not terrible at this track style, we should be looking at those names like I said, like the Ty Gibbs, the Allmendingers, the Chase Briscoes. There's a whole kind of group here of drivers that fall in this weird category of a little bit lower owned, just not quite as much place as the other guys that probably have just as much upside. Remember, we don't care that much if Zane Smith, goes from 34th to 20th or 18th. That is, we've seen the data. You have to finish top 10 here in order to wind up generally in the nuts lineup. So who are these guys that are not starting as far back, but could make their way into the top 5 or 6? That's where we have to find our edge here, and maybe a little bit of fading of like the guys after 1 or 2 that are in that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 group that just will have a wildly difficult time without leading many laps of putting up a number that can beat a play stiff. Beating Christopher Bell going from 32nd to 8th. I don't know how you do it unless you're leading laps. If you're starting, in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So good time to talk about Christopher Bell. He'll be a very popular play today, starting 32nd. And if you did who did their homework this week? If you did your homework, you heard Denny Hamlin sing the praises of Christopher Bell on his podcast this week, and his ability at this track. I think the thing that gives me pause is obviously he was great at Sonoma. The injury seems to be less and less of a factor. However, it still is a factor. He still is dealing with a wrist injury. And like, he does have wins here, but when it's not a win, it's a catastrophic result. And again, we are looking for top 10 upside. And for him, it's been top 5 or bust. And it's a lot more bust than top 5. So this is another play, maybe similar to Tyler Reddick, where you want to be a little bit underweight. Maybe one of those candidates where, Byron might be a better play just because of the ownership, not necessarily because of the situation. Hamlin might be a better play just because of the ownership, not necessarily the situation. But I think there's a little reason to be cagey about Christopher Bell here.
And if you look at the track position, section there, you can see how Toyota runs this race completely different than like a Byron would. They're staying back, and staying back is a lot more effective at Daytona and Talladega than it is here. I think there's inherent value to running in the top 10. And you can look at the results, and the results are pretty much the same, some odd wins and a bunch of wrecks. So that's just going to be everyone here. No one really avoids wrecks, but as far as top 10 upside goes, I think they're pretty damn similar. Just Byron's going to be lower owned is the difference. So I'm happy to take him in this range over Bell and Reddick, just portfolio wise.
Yeah. Another really interesting driver on this slate is Joey Logano, who starts second. He has led significant laps, like 25 plus laps, and I think half of the New Atlanta races.
Yeah.
Always up front. You look at the track position metric, always running in the top 10, if not the top 5. The field very comfortable with letting Joey Logano lead these races. However, the trend across all plate tracks for Joey has been more destruction than anything as of late. The saying goes, if you cause the crash, you aren't the crash. For whatever reason, Joey Logano causes the crash and is a part of it as well. So very risky starting from second, but I think this is probably the most likely dominator in the field. It's just a matter of, can he dominate enough to pay off a second place starting spot? And on top of that, can he finish the race?
And if you're doing the 2-run approach of the carnage runs and the green flag runs, like he becomes a real play in the green flag runs. Carnage runs, you have 0 of him.
Yeah. Pre-next gen era, Denny Hamlin, and I think people forget, was an ace on plate tracks. And I don't know what it is about the next gen car that just has made him a not as much of a factor on plate races. But starting 28th, a guy who admittedly doesn't like to take a ton of risk on these drafting style tracks. You're looking for a top 10. That's what you're after here. And while it hasn't happened a ton on plate tracks as of late, you're getting, the same play as Byron or Reddick or even Christopher Bell at much lower ownership. I think this is a fine play to at least match the field on, if not try to steal a little bit of leverage.
I think Hamlin's performance can be described in the same way, the exact same way as Truex's before he retired, and that was marching orders.
Yeah.
You sit back, you wait, you just take points, right? But that strategy hasn't been working recently. You can see it with his super speedway results. He's not really been contending for wins. It's crazy for someone that's won Daytona 3 times, like, to just be a real non-factor. But right now, I think the number one concern for him in this race is just maintaining his points lead. But he's in a place differential spot, which is really interesting. This is one of the most fascinating plays on the slate because he's really priced up. I think he's more of a mispriced than Reddick is, because I feel like you should almost get the road course price for Denny Hamlin here, because super speedways have just not been it for him here.
Yeah. Should have Jay Swift going to the race tonight, representing the DFS Army in the flesh.
I need to go to Atlanta. So this is I think this and Kansas, the 2 tracks I absolutely have to go to sometime in the next few years.
Yeah. Next up, Chase Briscoe in Geek. This is one of the plays you identified as in a very interesting spot, starting a lot higher up than some of these other pure place differential plays. As such, his ownership is going to be much lower. However, when you can, at 8 place differential points to start isn't that prohibitive. Maybe this is a guy that can drive up into the top 10. He finished second here in the spring. This might be a guy that people are overlooking that can be a critical piece today.
If you think about Chase Briscoe, first of all, this is like that guy that just keeps showing up in nuts lineups. Let's be real about him. Like, he just sneaks up on you. He gets there. Not bad here. Good track history. And again, going super under the radar. His ownership is below 20%, which is like the lowest of any driver in the whole freaking thing. Like, this is as under the radar as it gets in terms of, ownership. And it's precisely because, like, 20. If he was 24, if he's starting 24th, you'd be more interested. That 20th starting spot just kind of turns you off a little bit. It feels like there's just not as much place diff upside, but you kind of have to wipe it out of your mind. Again, if he finishes 4th, he's going to be in the nuts, and that's all that matters. The question is Chase Briscoe good enough? And he's got some pretty good finishes here, so I don't see why not.
Yeah, this is just a raw GPP play, but I do like this range of like 20 to 26. Like, guys in that range, historically, the ownership has not been there at all, because they think plate race and they're like, okay, we're going to the 30s, and like they're ignoring guys like this. And like AFC Angela said in the chat, very, very checkers record. So big GPP only energy from your boy Chase Briscoe.
Yeah, it's a great observation.
He's been better than that, though. Yeah, I feel like he's changed. I feel like his meta has changed a little bit. He was that more, and then he's just kind of. I feel like the last couple seasons he's chilled out a little bit and finished some races.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Switching to JGR helps a bit.
Yeah, that helps everything for sure. is there NASCAR tailgating before races like in NFL games? Absolutely. In fact,
What a question.
By the way, he
tailgate
wasn't
for
kidding.
North Wilkesboro's race next week will start as soon as the Atlanta race ends tonight. I
you
guarantee
serious?
there is trailers at North Wilkesboro right now partying
Yeah.
for next week's race already.
Michigan
funny thing
started
is-
Tuesday.
That was a serious question. I didn't know any of what you just described until you just said it now. I had no idea they go crazy for the NASCAR tailgating, but it makes sense.
The campers at tracks like Talladega are like, that environment's insane. It's more fun than the race, I would imagine. I have not really been to many of them because usually, I'm here doing my thing on the computer, but it's a wild time. I would recommend checking out sometime if you get the opportunity to.
Yeah. One of the craziest threads of the year is the Talladega social media team does a things we found after the race. So Talladega has this week-long extravaganza on what they call the boulevard and camping in the infield. And then all the campers leave on Monday. And then the social media team goes through and finds things that are left behind on the campgrounds. And it is the most diabolical things ever.
Examples?
I can't
Look up the all gas, no brakes Talladega videos. You're welcome.
Are the items inappropriate for a family show? Is that what you're saying?
And I mean, as appropriate, I'm sure there's plenty of inappropriate items left behind, but social media appropriate. But there's been like coaches with wheels on them, motorized coaches.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of examples right now. Flamingos, a lot of flamingos.
What's with flamingos? Why are they? Who's bringing flamingos and why?
I don't know.
What is a
Talladega, baby?
You're talking about like those ornaments that you put on your lawn?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Left behind. I mean, we're getting off track here.
And if you do go to Dega, bring beads. Trust me.
Bring what?
Bring beads.
What's beads? What does that mean?
Think Mardi Gras, bro.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Is this why you're always going to these races? I didn't know it's Mardi Gras 2.0.
I don't camp at Dega. I go to the race with my family. Okay, I'm a good.
What are you talking about? I didn't know I could be going to living Mardi Gras, but telling the wife I'm going to a business trip.
Yeah.
So here's, coaches, a lot of coaches, a lot of TVs left behind, a safe, a tire with a winch attached to it, a pool table,
Play some pool.
Just a mattress in the middle of the field, a computer desk chair. I don't even know what that is. Yeah, just it's crazy at Talladega.
That's awesome. I got to go to one of those.
Talladega would be the one.
Oh yeah,
Talladega's fun.
Let's keep hammering through here.
Yeah. I'll bang through a couple of
We're getting
years.
so sidetracked. It's fun though.
Carson Hocevar starts 14th. He'll be a popular play and maybe a little bit of a risky play because his ownership's going to be high for a guy starting 15%. But his performance here has backed it up. 3 top 10s in a row. Like we said, you need to be finishing in the top 10. And maybe more encouraging is the top 10 hit rate on plate tracks. Well over 50% dating back to Daytona 2024. That is a lot of top 10s at a place where at a track a style of track that finishing top 10 consistently is very difficult at. And Taco, this is one of the ones that I don't really know even how to approach. He starts 14th, but the history says you got to get some exposure here.
I love it. I think Hocevar is extraordinarily talented at super speedway races in a way a lot of drivers are not, and you can clearly see it come through. I think the top 10 hit rate is exactly what we're looking for. I think Hocevar is live to win this race. He's priced among the favorites, and for whatever reason, bro does not wreck at super speedways, and that's a really valuable skill set to have. It almost looks like you're looking at Chris Buescher's track history at like a Daytona or something, and there is a bit of a skill set to that. So I really don't mind Hocevar as one of my top plays of all the guys starting in the top 20.
And what's the golden rule of wrecking, Taco?
Get the fuck out of the way. It won't be a wreck.
If you cause the wreck, you're not in the wreck.
Yeah.
And Hocevar causes a lot of wrecks, but it has not affected his performance on plate tracks.
Not one bit. And he gets he's a fast lap farmer. I don't know how he does it. Everywhere he goes, he gets shit tons of fast laps. In 5 races, he's never gotten less than 9 fast laps. That does add up here.
Breaks my heart to see Keselowski priced at 8,600 at a drafting style track, but that's just been the reality. Domination for Keselowski comes at time, and you look back to Atlanta last year, he finished second. was in position to win that race before Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman kind of stole his lunch money. But he's really strong at these tracks. It just, for whatever reason, has resulted in like 7th, 8th place finishes rather than top 5 finishes consistently. I think this is a fine play starting 10th just because Brad Keselowski has so much, I almost want to call it aura at drafting style tracks, that he's going to be at the front. He's going to feel safe, but he has been volatile at times.
Yeah, I mean, the bad crew isn't going to really hurt him here. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Kez, I just feel like the Penske guys are way more likely to actually go out and lead. Like, you know, he did lead like a good amount of this race last year. There's that chance of, I think I'm just going to kind of gamble on that not happening because I'm already taking too many stands on guys in the top 10.
Yeah. Chris Buescher in a similar situation, and you know, maybe not as impressive as at Atlanta, but we talk about top 10 hit rates, and you look at it for Chris Buescher at these drafting style tracks. Now he starts 13th, so top 10 probably isn't enough. It's probably more about a top 7, top 6, top 5 for him to hit the optimal, but he's done that pretty consistently on drafting style tracks. Just haven't seen it as consistently at Atlanta.
Yeah, I think he struggles here. He's like extremely good at like Daytona, right? But really pedestrian here. Haven't seen a lot from him. Doesn't get any fast laps whatsoever. Just kind of hangs out and still ends up getting in tons of wrecks. I really don't like this play.
Austin Cindric has been as good as any of the Penske drivers on drafting style tracks, and Atlanta specifically. He's led significant laps here in 4 races in a row. Just hasn't finished super well here as of late. Did have a good stretch of top 12 finishes in kind of mid 22 to 24, but since then just hasn't been able to finish, and has had terrible luck at plate drafting style tracks in general. He starts 8th here, so a little bit of place differential, but I think the ownership will reflect that. It's going to be hard to get leverage on a guy like Austin Cindric.
He's really high owned, Taco. 21% for an 8th starting Cindric. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, no, people love playing Cindric because he has like the best stats at super speedway tracks. Like, he's always running up front. Just look at his track position; like it's consistently up there. Just look at the laps led. He's led double-digit laps here for 6 straight races, and no signs of that slowing down. He's a lot cheaper than the other 2 Penske guys, which usually does not come into play. Might come into play here. He's just a very known entity, priced among the favorites. Honestly, he's kind of interchangeable with Blaney and Logano up front. I still think Logano is probably the most likely to lead, you know, like 80 laps or something that breaks the slate. But even Cindric has done stuff like that, like not really that long ago, 2024 fall race. So this race 2 years ago led 92 laps, just kind of stomped the field. Just worried, you know, finishes kind of be damned. It really is just like a GPP play. He's wrecked out a fucking ton, but a lot of it has not really been his fault. So I think he has a decent enough top 10 hit rate to be in the rotation here. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a secret, and his ownership is kind of, you know, makes me not huge on this play because he's a very, very, very known entity in the DFS world. Yeah.
One I'd like to hear your opinion on, Kev, is Ross Chastain, who starts 9th. So in theory, not a great, DFS spot, but a guy we saw earlier, like a 50% optimal rate at New Atlanta, really, really good at drafting style tracks. You look at the finishes, very consistently inside the top 15, and very good at Atlanta specifically, obviously. But starting 9th, can you really get that much exposure to a guy like Chastain?
No, you got to be careful. Like, this is real. First of all, talk about emphasizing that at most 2 dominators and expand that dominator list probably out to the top 15 or 16. There's just way too much of attempts to squeeze a lot of these different high starters into lineups, and they're just not enough ending positions to place them all in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So something's got to give. Yeah, I mean, just like everybody else, I love Chastain. He's, you know, I just always love Chastain. He's like that sneaky nuts play a lot of times on DraftKings, but he's starting 8th. He's got to finish 1st and lead laps.
Yeah,
1st or 2nd. How many people can finish 1st or 2nd? You can only have 2 people finishing 1st or 2nd. So if Chastain is in there and some other top guy is in there, there's just no room up top for anyone else. So yeah, for Chastain to get there, he needs to win. He needs to win, or he needs to come in second. Can he get there at third place? Taco, what's the number? 8th place to third. What is that? About a 47?
51 with a couple.
Oh, with some
laps
fast
led
lap
and fast
51.
laps.
I'm not sure 51 is enough. I think 51 is what Tyler Reddick scores if he gets from 31st down to like 13th. So
you're looking at FanDuel.
The bar is pretty low.
Oh, my fault.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, the bar is pretty low for like all these play stiff guys to outscore a Chastain third place finish. I don't think it can win without being in first. So as much as I want to play him,
for an optimal play was 53 so far in New Atlanta.
Yeah. It's look at, by the way, it's not just Chastain. We just talked about Austin Cindric, same situation. There's just too many names all in that, like Chase Elliott's in that situation. They're all in the same situation. And something's got to give, right? They can't all do well. Joey Logano can't dominate this whole thing, and also Chastain and Brisk or an Elliott or a Ross Chastain, Cindric, these 9-10 type starters. They can't all get there. Something's got to give here.
Yeah, you can look at, just compare Chastain and Cindric here directly, just odds wise. Cindric has so much more upside. I know that Ross Chastain has a great top 10 hit rate here, but from play stiff guys, you're looking for top 10s. From guys already starting in the top 10, you're looking to lead laps, and you're looking to win the race, and that's the upside that Cindric just has more of than Chastain. Neither of them are good plays, mind you, and understand that Chastain being in horrible form right now isn't that bad, or hasn't been that bad at the super speedways. He's been about as good as ever. It's just really, you can only take two. There are not very many shots you can take in the top 10. They're going to be kind of minimal sprinkles for me. And these guys just kind of falling by the wayside. Because again, like you said, you can't have a lot of these guys. You can't mix and match too much and just forget about the actual real plays over there. I think it's more important to focus on guys in the 20s over guys starting in the top 10 to be different.
If I'm running the Dom station, I'm strongly considering just one from the top 10. It is going to try to jam more than one into your lineup, or at least splitting my run so that while I might allow two in some of them, but I'm also going to do a run, a continuation run with just one, because I'm telling you, these names are sexy enough that they're going to try to be jammed into your lineups together, and I just don't think it's going to win.
Yeah. Much clearer path to that kind of 55-point barrier does Bubba Wallace have. He starts 22nd. The issue is, and for good reason, Bubba Wallace is so good at drafting style tracks and Atlanta, but the field knows it. His ownership is going to be really high, going to be very difficult to get leverage on a guy like Bubba. But he's a guy that I'll probably have a lot of because he is so talented and will be one of the favorites to win the race most of the time on a drafting style track. It's just, for whatever reason, the field knows it, and his ownership ends up being pretty high on these types of tracks.
He's right in the sweet spot, the 20s where I'm trying to attack here. But yeah, he is going to be fairly popular. So maybe not the best example of the kind of play I'm going after, but
yeah.
As far as top 10 another good one here could go here, he's probably one of the absolute best. It's really either a wreck or a top 10 from him. It's kind of alternated back and forth here at this track. In the spring, he led 43 laps, commanded the field recently. Just this year, they were okay with letting him lead a bunch of laps. That's another bit of upside that he has. So he's going to be popular, but it's for a really good reason.
Yeah, and top 10 probably isn't enough for him. Probably more closer to a top 7, and that's a little scary when a guy is going to have ownership as high as he will.
Yeah,
Stenhouse is really good at Atlanta. Top 10s in more than half of the new Atlanta races. He starts 15th. Probably needs to get closer to the top 5, top 4, which he's done with some level of consistency. But his implied top 5 percentage on the sports books is about 10%. That's probably where I'll end up having his ownership at.
This is the only time I've ever seen there be qualifying for a super speedway with this next gen car, and Stenhouse actually qualified better than 34th. I don't know what's wrong with him. What are you doing qualifying 15, Stenhouse? Like, that's not what you do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, the ultimate race setup guy, but it's really, really worked out for him. Again, just you can see in the finish is just straight checkers or wreckers. And it's really a top 10 or bust, which is exactly what you're going for. Just wish he started a little bit further back. We've seen this like teens range be really dead. Overall,
it's not going to work top 10, Taco. We need
it's more top 5 or bust here.
Yeah, he needs.
Yeah, that's what keeps him out.
Yeah, he's got to be top 5-ish. Like 15 to 10 is just going to be like a 39er or it's not going to get you there.
This is a play I'd consider very cute.
Yeah. Interesting one here. This is one that you identified maybe a bit earlier, Kev. Ty Gibbs starting 23rd, a guy that doesn't tend to get a ton of ownership on drafting style tracks. And, his success has been varied at this style of racing. But when you take all that out, you cover the names, you cover the stats, you got a very strong car starting 23rd that's going to be as low owned as any other car in this range. Maybe this becomes a play you attack and get some leverage on.
Why not Ty Gibbs? That's what I say. Why not?
I'm with you.
There's going to be some carnage, get crazy. Grandpa Joe is watching.
And he's led laps here, 30 plus laps in 2 of the last 4 races. So he's running up front. It's just, wrecks happen and
too.
Yeah. So I think this is a really good play, especially when you hold him up against Bubba Wallace, whose ownership is going to be in the 30s. Ty Gibbs might not even break 20. I think it's a really, really strong play.
Yep. Just like most weeks, Ty Gibbs and Chase Briscoe are just the same sort of like Toyota is just lower owned than the more obvious ones. And here in the spot, they kind of serve the same sort of purpose, just guys in that really sweet 20s range that have a lot of upside. Love this Ty Gibbs play.
Bowman and Suarez, we can kind of bundle together. They both are strong in Atlanta, but they are both in a position where they'll need to win this race to hit the optimal. And so you can kind of just use their implied win rate to set your ownership. Maybe a second place that only scores you 49 unless there's domination from one of these guys. You really need a win.
Yeah, and he's come second and even won here a lot without leading fuck all for laps. It's just,
as good as Daniel Suarez is at Atlanta, he's just in a position where he needs to win, and probably you probably need 20 laps led out of him to break that 55. It's just a really tough spot.
FanDuel. That's all I got to say with Daniel Suarez. FanDuel only. Bowman, neither side.
Is this a FanDuel track, Taco? Is this a track that we should be like hammering FanDuel more aggressively than DraftKings? For some reason, I'm getting a vibe.
There are ones I liked a lot better. Like a few weeks ago, like the intermediate tracks have been actually pretty nice on FanDuel. This one's kind of weird. FanDuel literally just comes down to having, it's almost like PJ where you got to get 6 out of 6 through because the laps completed stat is so much of your score at a super speedway, especially with 260 laps to go. Like the scores are so bunched up and close. It literally just comes down to having 6 survivors almost no matter where they finish, but place differential is a bit less important there. Really like truly genuinely comes down to you need the top 5 finishers as your FanDuel lineup. So that's where like a Suarez getting no laps led or fast laps, but finishing like getting another like lucky second place finish. That could not be optimal on DraftKings, but it would be optimal on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like you don't have to worry as much about the place diff over there. It's just like, hey, some of these good drivers, some of the Chastains and these top 10 or 12 names might not be the nuts on DraftKings, even if they finish 4th, 5th, 6th.
Yeah.
But FanDuel, they will be.
You use it for like cross-site hedging is what I mostly use FanDuel for, and it's great for that.
Sharp 51 is not enough. Yeah, our floor this week is really 55, 56. And so that just adds to the list of things we need that we know to be true. Every single person that's hit the optimal at New Atlanta has scored at least 55 points. They've finished in the top 10, and every single optimal lineup has had the first place finisher and the second place finisher. So when you're building your lineups, everybody needs to be a candidate to satisfy those 4 conditions at minimum.
Yep.
So a good thing to keep in mind as we go through this. Hendrick, Penske finally show up this week. Yeah, Toyota should not have any significant advantage this week.
Toyota
it should be wide open.
Plus 250, as we're Ford and Chevy are both like plus 130, plus 140.
Yeah.
So it's kind of flipped on its head to how it's been all year.
Killer Priest. I know this is a guy that you liked to lock in at a lot of tracks, Kev. He starts 19th. So another guy we need to start talking about, like top 7, top 6, maybe even top 5. Starting a little too high up, but a quiet play, a guy that doesn't tend to get a ton of ownership. So maybe a place where you can look to get a little bit of leverage.
Yeah, that's about it. Killer Priest, tough season.
It's been up and down for him.
Yeah, he kind of went the way of like Corey LaJoy, where it was awesome for a while and then it just fizzled out.
Yeah,
he's fizzling. He's fizzling now.
Right on the line of top 16 in points. Like he's right there in the fight. I think he got penalized, right? That's the only reason he's down there, right? So he's kind of fighting back, getting those points back. But he started just a touch high to where like he consistently runs in the top 15 at these super speedways, and he's very happy to. And that'll get you points and all that, but I think you need more upside than that starting 19th. If you're starting in the teens, you really got to push into like the top 5, and that's usually not what we see out of Priest.
There's just no history of Priest finishing top 5 here or anywhere near it. So, I mean, what are we really doing? The guy is a teens finisher. You know, he's in a 4. Like, there's not a whole lot of things pointing to play Priest today. I
know what? He's a race finisher, and for that reason, I hereby designate him, stamp it.
FanDuel only?
FanDuel play.
We need a stamp for the screen. FanDuel only. Stamp.
Yep.
All right. Keep it going.
SVG, not super relevant tonight. He starts 12th. We'll need to win. So, again, you can kind of use your win percentage as your ownership guideline.
Yeah, and that win percentage isn't real anyway.
Zane Smith, a little more interesting. Probably going to be a very popular play. He starts 34th.
A little?
This is the play.
Yeah. Been very, very strong at Atlanta. Top 11 in 3 races in a row. Been very strong on plate races. Top 10s in 4 races in a row. And 5 of the last 6. Just super strong. But the ownership is going to be very prohibitive. I don't know how much comfortable you are going overweight here, Taco, but certainly one that you'll probably want to match the field on.
Have you ever seen a driver that's more set up to wreck ever? Like everything is perfect about this play. He's starting back in 34th. Top 10 hit rate. He's finished top 10 here like every time almost recently. Like, just look at the super speedway finishes. It's 5 top 10s in his last 6, and he wrecked in the other one. Like, what are we doing here? This play is fucking awesome, and he is probably going to get dragged out of here on a hauler. Like, everything is like, this play is too good.
Yeah. How do you attack a place like this, Kev, where like everything just lines up from perfect? Everyone knows it. And his ownership is going to be so high, but it's just so hard to come up with a scenario where it doesn't pay off.
I mean, I know the scenario where it doesn't pay off, and it's not hard for me to come up with it at all. This is the kind of spot. So I'm gonna contrast this with the Reddick chalk from earlier, because this is cheap chalk that looks really, really good. And on today's slate, there is salaries do matter in a sense a little bit more than other ones. Yeah, 50% own Zane Smith. Taco, what's the accident rate here? About 25%. Now multiply that by karma and Murphy's Law. And
it's a real Murphy's Law play. That's what I was thinking.
You got to throw some Murphy in there, and I'd say Zane Smith got about a 75% wreck possibility in this.
It's not encouraging. So what I'm doing a fuck ton of snake drafts, and I have so much Zane Smith exposure from that because no one's drafting him, or at least where he should be. He should be like the 2nd or 3rd pick off the board, but you can get him like 8th. I'm trying to accumulate so much Zane Smith ownership just off snakes alone. It can justify me not balling out on him in DFS, but I'm also having a very hard time going against my favorite driver in a perfect spot at a super speedway, which he's just so good at avoiding wrecks. So like, I don't know. It might just be, I'm probably just going to fall for the bait and, crash out when he crashes out.
Yeah. Hocevar, the Baby Yoda bringing up Hocevar and Zane's feud right now. And I do not think that feud is over with. However, I hope they both have enough sense to leave it alone at a place like Atlanta. I don't think there'll be any consequences of that ongoing feud at Atlanta. I would hope not.
Speaking of ongoing feuds,
the young guns are going at it. Fucking Colt Trickle.
He's sandwiched salary-wise in the middle between a pretty fucking big feud from last week.
Yeah. Austin Hill is a really interesting one, and I've kind of gone back and forth. I was a little underweight on him. Like, I wasn't super big on him in the notes, but then I thought about it. Like, Austin Hill is obviously a very talented drafting style racer, and we see it in the O'Reilly series every single time that they go to a track like that. But his performances in the next gen era have been pretty underwhelming. But then those performances were also in the original 33 team, which was the third RCR team, which was bad for everyone. No one ever got a good finish in that 33 car. Now he's got Kyle Busch's team. Kyle Busch was so good at Atlanta. Maybe they've got some setups, some processes, some personnel that'll help boost Austin Hill. And when you hold him up in the light against Zane Smith, who's probably going to have double the ownership, maybe Austin Hill's a better play given the circumstances than I gave him credit for in my notes. I think I'm a little more bullish on this play than my notes would intimate.
And Vegas is with you.
I mean, the win odds aren't that bad. The implied top 10 is very, very good.
Yeah, and a top 10 is all you need, right? So if he's got 30% top 10 and he's going to be 25% owned, there's your leverage.
Yeah, you could pretty much look across the board at these implied top 10s and use that as a pretty nice little guide in terms of like how much you should be owning, or at least a guideline onto ownerships for some of these plays. I think that's a reasonable way to look at this entire thing.
Yeah, I think if you're reading my notes, I'm going to change this after the show. I was under, I forget what I gave him in my notes, but it wasn't good. And the more I thought about it over the course of the night, this is going to be a real true ace team, not the old 33 team that had underperformed with everyone. I think this is a more relevant play than I gave it credit for.
Yeah.
Josh Berry starts 17th, going to be super low owned. He's run really well at Atlanta, but it's the Josh Berry curse. He just does not finish races, and that has been going on for far too long.
Yeah, if you run a green flag run, you're not going to play him because he can't really get place differential starting from 17th, and there isn't carnage to push him up. And if you do a carnage run, well, he is the carnage, so you're never playing him.
You look at the
absolutely not. You know, he's the opposite of FanDuel only. He's a FanDuel never, ever, ever, never play Josh Berry on FanDuel
on any track.
Just ever. Always wrecking. I mean, this is incredible. Look, what I've got highlighted here, his finishes, and keep in mind this is a Penske car, and Penske hasn't been great this year, but they're still a top 20, top 15 team. This is catastrophic.
No, that's worse than Zilich.
Let me ask you something. Opinion. How long until Penske looks at that wreck rate and goes, bro?
He's already gone.
Yeah, he already lost his ride.
He's already gone.
Yeah, there you go.
He's out at the end of the year, replaced by Jesse Love.
J-Lo? All right, another J-Lo to add to the mix. Thank you for that.
Let's talk about Eric. I guess we can talk about Eric Jones and Austin Dillon here kind of in a bunch. But Eric Jones is great. He's a great plate driver. The bigger the track, the better when it comes to Eric Jones. Austin Dillon, you can say the same things, but they're starting just a little too high to be super
about Austin Dillon? Where are the finishes for Austin Dillon that tell me he's good?
Yeah, I guess it's more anecdotal. He's good. We know that Austin Dillon can get it done on plate tracks, but I guess if you look at the data that's on this sheet, you wouldn't see that.
Yeah, I'm extreme unfriending Austin Dillon, to be clear. He's already been unchecked.
Hold on. Do we still have it?
I unfriend you. That's not how it works.
The gals haven't been brought out in a while.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but I mean, it sounded like maybe you have some interest in Eric Jones, Taco, or did I misread your tone there?
I always play Eric Jones at super speedways, but this is a situation where I will tell myself, like, he's definitely better at the 2+ milers. The bigger the track, the better, right? And he just needs so much here that
it's got to be first or second,
way to
really.
Play him, right? And really, the finishes for him have kind of fallen off a bit over the last couple of years compared to that insane run he was going on in the early next gen. So unfortunately, my boy is a fade here. As much as I love playing some Eric Jones, you can't do it this week starting 11th. There's just no real upside.
Todd Gilliland starts 21st. This is an interesting type of play. He's capable of running in the top 10, but really in this situation, probably needs to be closer to 7th, 6th. Todd Gilliland's in pretty good form right now, but I don't know. Can he get a top 6 here, Taco?
I think a lot of his good runs at super speedways have come as a result of a really, really good trimmed out qualifying effort, and that's just not what we see here. We haven't seen that from Front Row at all really this year. He has no finish here better than 15th in the next gen era since this reconfiguration. So not a whole lot to be said here. I really like this like 20s plus range, but maybe on the deeper side here. This just strikes me as a really horrible, awful version of the Briscoe play with no upside.
Michael McDowell is an interesting one, and maybe a guy who I'm going to have some leverage on. He starts 18th, and I think a lot of his performances are clouded by the fact that he was qualifying so well on plate tracks for so long.
Yeah.
And, I think as a result of that, they would go into the race with not a great setup, and as soon as they lost the lead, they would go straight to the back. The fact that he qualified 18th here makes me think they're set up a little more for the race, and we know how good Michael McDowell is at plate racing. I just think his setup was set up to lead, and when he lost the lead, it would all go to hell. This is one where I think he starts 18th, we get him 7th, we get him top 5 even. We're starting to talk about optimal upside. At 10% owned, I don't mind grabbing a little leverage here.
He finishes races at a pretty good clip. And yeah, you can see back in like 2024, he was on the pole like every super speedway race, got a bunch of lead laps that way. That's not the case anymore. I'd probably be more interested in him if he is starting in the 20s. Again, it's going to take, I don't really know, his top 10 odds are like not great, but they're doable. He really needs like a top 5, which is like 10%, same as his ownership. It's just kind of a whatever play.
Yeah. Geek, I know you'll have some thoughts on AJ Allmendinger, who starts 27th. Very, very consistent finisher on plate tracks, but rarely finishes in the top 10. And we know we need a top 10 finish to hit the optimal. But how do you balance a guy like Allmendinger, whose floor seems pretty high, but maybe his ceiling is a little too low to consistently hit the optimal? And he's probably going to be 20 to 25% owned.
Yeah, I've got like an unnatural love for Dinger. I just play a lot of Dingo all the time anyway. And I like him here. I don't know. I like him here too. Yes, he finishes 12th, 14th. Look at all that green though. Like based on where he's starting, again, this is the perfect starting spot according to our data. We want people in the high 20s. Dinger is like almost, I mean, I didn't see him. Is he a ringer? Is he a ringer for plate? What is he a ringer for?
I think it's this track specifically because these numbers are very, very corroborated by him being like the best in the O'Reilly series at this same track. Like he dominated the shit out of this track when he was running in O'Reilly.
I absolutely like Dinger. The problem with Allmendinger is like he it doesn't show in this data, but he does kind of wreck a lot. But I haven't seen it too much in his track history here. So I actually don't think he's a good cash play at all. I think he's going to be he's like a wrecker and probably crash if he's not doing well. But if he doesn't crash, if he doesn't get banged up, I think he could finish top 10. And I think top 10 for Dingo is what you need, right? From 28th up until 10th, that's going to do it. That'll get it done.
Yep.
So this is a guy I want. I'll be over the field a little bit on. I also love that he's one of the rare low-owned names. Everybody's 40% owned. This guy you're getting at 22. That's almost like a low ownership punt.
If you're doing the 30s, just straight, that the usual cash lineup you see at Daytona Talladega, just the 6 guys starting the furthest back, like you're gonna miss out on a real obvious cash game play like Allmendinger. I do think Brady has a bit of a point where we haven't seen him finish top 10 anytime recently at a super speedway, and the optimal lineup has always had all top 10 finishers here. So that could be a decent case against him if you wanted to fade. But I don't think his ownership is going to be like too crazy.
What about that third place back in 20? What about that third place back in 23, Taco?
Yeah. Hey, there you go. That's the trend breaker there. He's capable of it. And really, I'm more impressed by like how good he was in the O'Reilly series. Like he's never had a bad race here in this configuration ever.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
He's one of the best floor plays on the slate besides Zane Smith. It's just I wish he had a little bit more ceiling.
His implied top 10 is brutally low.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to bet that.
Well, it's really Colleague being on the way out and losing Chevy support that will, I think, kind of hold him back here. So that would be the strongest case against him besides his lack of like top 10 finishes.
Connor Zillett, listen, I've never started a Cup Series race, and I've certainly never started a Cup Series race in the last couple of weeks. But Connor Zilic has not done much more Cup Series racing than me over the course of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He is just in terrible form right now. But in theory, starting 25th, he has finished towards the top 10 here before. I think if you can close your eyes and ignore what a terrible season it's been for Connor Zilic, you look at this range from Zilic down to, Cole Custer. I guess Cole Custer, really, maybe Cody Ware, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys snuck into the optimal. And I think Connor Zilic has a good of chance as any if you ignore the fact that he's just in terrible form right now.
Is he good at plate racing? Like, I know Zilic was kind of like a road track guy or something. Is he good at this track type?
He's as good as anybody in this range, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Gregson may be the exception.
Yeah, and with him, it's just his constant lap one. Lap one, he's constantly getting sent to the torture chamber, and that's just been his whole season. He's just a real raw pivot play. Because I see his ownership being almost nothing, and that's where all of his upside comes from. And this is the one track where we have seen him have a good finish. This race here last year, the summer race. So that's a reason to be. I'll probably be over on Zilic. It doesn't sound good. It's hard to stomach, but that's like the reason I'll be over on him. Yeah. I think if it comes down to it, like, he's seriously due progression, because how many of these wrecks is he getting taken out? Like, no fault due to his own. It's been so many of them. Like, surely it can't go on forever. And here there's, the carnage is just going to be kind of spread throughout. Really, that last year's summer race doing a lot of heavy lifting for my analysis of this play here. It's really kind of all we have to go off of.
And as we get to the home stretch of drivers here, Danny has a great question here for you, Geek.
Yeah.
Yes. So starting today, the DFS Army NASCAR membership or the VIP membership, all DFS Army memberships now come with access to fastlap.io, which has simulators, all sorts of different stuff. Starting today, code FASTLAP gets you 15% off the NASCAR membership, monthly, weekly, yearly, whatever you want to do. Or if you want to bump up to the VIP membership, which is going to be super valuable as we approach college football and NFL season, you can do so. dfsarmy.com/pricing. The link is in the bio. Code FASTLAP, 15% off any membership, gets you access to everything. I'm talking everything. Optimizer, which we'll use here in a second. Domination Station, Discord, driver notes, research station that we've been using for this whole podcast. Never been a better time to be a NASCAR DFS Army member. dfsarmy.com/pricing, promo code FASTLAP. John Hunter Nemechek really in the same mold as Connor Zilic here. Maybe doesn't jump off the page in terms of results, but again, I really think somebody in this range is going to have a real crack at the optimal. Why not John Hunter, who's probably going to be less than 10% owned?
Yeah, Zilic and Nemechek in this range just kind of like, they're not savory plays, but they kind of match the the mid-20s guys that I'm really looking out here. I think on paper he has a better chance than Zilic. Just overall, he's starting a spot further ahead. I do worry about the lack of like real top 10, top 5 upside I've seen out of him. But yeah, I think Zilic and Nemechek, I'm going to be over on both of these guys just because they don't look good on paper, but they work out well as plays on paper, especially compared to the guys around them. I think this is just a decent spot, and the ownership's going to be very low.
Geek, what do you do with a guy like Riley Herbst, who is coming to form now, starting to get more and more ownership, but we have never really see that form translate to a plate style track? But he starts 29th. He's in elite equipment. Again, probably one of these guys in this range is going to have a crack at the optimal. Do you give a little leverage to a guy like Riley Herbst?
I think you should. It's funny. I've been waiting for the Riley Herbst conversation this whole time because the ownership is weirdly low. And I was like, what? Because my first look was, well, Riley Herbst's a really good play. Love the starting point, 29th overall. The driver on the upswing. But look, this is a big engine track, right? This is a wide open, and this guy's driving a really good car, 23XI Toyota. Like raw power is going to be there. So I was really trying to lean on you guys to try to figure out what the hell is going on with this low ownership projection relative to me, what looks like a reasonably and also bad Vegas odds, like terrible. So The odds makers don't like him, but like what looks like a decent spot to me in a, especially if there's any kind of carnage in this track.
Well, I think the issue is actually the fact he's in a 23XI Toyota, which most weeks we've seen elevate him into being a way better play than he ought to be. And he's still been priced down low like this at these tracks. So we're used to playing quite a bit of Herbst, and he's had a real like top 15 upside that he hasn't had before as a result of his equipment. But here with Toyota being plus 250 and overall just lacking numbers and really not being good at Atlanta, we've also seen Riley Herbst not be very good at the super speedways since really he came onto the scene. Had some good runs to start, and he is capable of that, I guess, but we have not really seen it recently from him. I think everyone's pretty aware of that. The odds show that he's got, just a really – he's one of the guys with a longer shot here. I do like the play. I think this whole range here is really sweet. The 20s – low ownership play is kind of what I really want to be leveraged over. But yeah, it's just a matter of him just looking pretty rough as far as, and just Toyota overall not really being the greatest at these super speedways outside of like the obvious like dominant guys who have been getting wins like Reddick and Bell, etc.
I mean, let me add in one little math thing here, which is Riley Herbst has, so if you just look at the implied top 10 and you want to believe it, let's say we believe that number. At 15% implied top 10, here's another number you could believe. If Riley Herbst is within the top 10, he's very likely in the winning lineup, right? Like he hits above that 55 number. And top 10 doesn't mean you finish 10th. It could mean you finish 7th or 8th. So if the odds makers at the very worst are giving him a 15% implied top 10, and we've got him projected for just 8% ownership, there is some leverage to be had there. This guy finishes top 10, he will be in the nuts lineup. Accept it, embrace it. He's got a 15% chance if you believe the odds, and he's only going to be 8. So this is a leverage spot. Does it mean the guy is going to, take us to the promised land? We'll see. But, if the 15% hits and you've got him above his 8% field ownership weight, you are going to be helping your lineups. That will give your lineups a lift, right? That's that lift that you want. So, again, do with that what you will, but I think we should be looking at those numbers as much as possible for all of these guys and saying, all right, assuming this is correct, if we want to believe that, then what should our ownership be just in case this is right? And when you go up to names like Killer Priest, it doesn't matter as much because top 10 doesn't necessarily get him in the nuts, but this guy definitely in the nuts if he hits the top 10. So I'm going to look at that 15%. I don't want to be under leveraged on it.
I think it's a great point, and something I know I make this mistake all the time because you get blinders on trying to chase the optimal lineup. But you look at a guy like Riley Herbst and you say, okay, he finishes top 10, 15% of the time. So maybe he hits the optimal 12% of the time. So I'm going to play him at 12%. But then you also consider if Riley Herbst finishes 13th, then maybe that's not enough to hit the optimal. It also doesn't do a ton of damage in your lineup. Like that lineup could still cash. It might not win. But when the goal is to churn ROI and grow your bankroll, a guy like Riley Herbst, is not as devastating, has a much higher floor than a guy, to your point, like Ryan Priest.
And the optimals almost never hit at a super speedway because it's so unique. We really don't even get like chops like that because of how many guys are in
Does
play.
the nuts not hit, Taco, all that frequently?
Short tracks and lower series, they do all the time. At super speedways, no. I think if you look at like the top like 10 nuts or something, maybe like one will be played in a contest. You don't have to have like exact nuts, but it sure does help.
Yeah. Noah Gragson truthers, it's time to rise because Noah Gragson has finished top 15 in 3 straight plate appearances. Now Atlanta hasn't been his best track, but starting 36, all the things we said about Riley Herbst, I think do apply to Noah Gragson. And something maybe we haven't talked about enough during this whole breakdown is, Penske obviously has an advantage on drafting style tracks, but Ford as a whole has been very strong at drafting style tracks. Now that gap has shrunken forward to the field over the course of the last couple of years, but I think Noah Gragson is another guy very much in that Riley Herbst mode with a very, very high floor. And we have seen evidence of him being able to run towards the top 10. I think this is a fine play.
Yeah.
look at the implied top 10 here. 13%.
Yeah, 13%.
But the other thing about Gragson is starting 36, he doesn't even need to be top 10. This is where you might squeeze your way in with a 12. You know, what is 12? Yeah, see? Like
56.
You could squeeze in there with a 12th placer.
Yeah, 13, top 13 really starts to talk about optimal.
Yeah, you could squeeze in there.
I like this play a lot.
Yeah, and something that the Atlanta ownership continually over the years, like these super duper cheap guys always go under owned because they're going to get the crazy ownership at like Daytona, Talladega. It really hasn't spread down at the very, very bottom of the pack, and everyone knows that Gragson usually wrecks out at these like most of the time, but this year he's actually like kept it together surprisingly. I do think it'll be higher owned than 10%, but not like that crazy high owned. And yeah, unfortunately, what Ken said is kind of right here. Like Gragson and Zane are a lot closer to being the same play than you would think. And Zane, obviously, the obvious one that sticks out, but ownership wise, like Gragson is kind of objectively a better play.
Ty Dillon starts a little too high up in 16th. He would need, a top 5 performance, probably, maybe a little. Yeah, top 5 really not super relevant. Nope. Cole Custer, I think Cole Custer is a capable race car driver, but these plays, you're getting the Cole Custer, Cody Ware, BJ McLeod, Chad Fincham. All these guys are starting to be a little more tied to carnage rather than performance. We probably need significant shakeups in this field, and these kind of become carnage plays.
Yeah, even like Gragson, Herbst gets kind of dragged into this range where the upside is probably going to keep them out of the optimal lineup because they don't really have that great of a shot, to get past the 55-point threshold. But they'll score decently, and they're not going to hurt you. You're going to be able to place in contests, but like taking it down with one of these guys, especially like Custer. I guess he's had top 5s at Talladega and Daytona recently, but realistically here, we're probably expecting him to, if he survives the carnage, maybe finish like 15th to 20th. That's about the expectation. It's not going to win you anything. It's going to get decent points, but there's a lot of floor here. I truly worry about the ceiling with these guys. And you're wearing McLeod's, they just are so much better suited for a Daytona, Atlanta, where there are those big wrecks that clear
Daytona,
out.
Talladega, you mean?
Daytona, Talladega. They just tend to have a much bigger advantage there. Is where they're stealing top 10s here, the whole field wrecks, and they're stealing, a top 15, maybe a top 20. I don't think that's going to be enough.
I mean, you guys have seen it. We looked at all the winning lineups. You don't see these names, these type of names showing up in Atlanta. It doesn't mean the meta didn't change or can't change or would change this week. But in the past, you just have not seen these guys getting there. It's that second tier. It's a tier above this group that, it's the guys capable of finishing top 10, which we keep talking about. I mean, it's not these guys. These guys are finishing top 20 in carnage.
And I think we tend to fall in love with this value metric on normal weeks when we're trying to max salary. But remember, the floor here is we need 55 points. So for Cody Ware, we need him finishing 11th, 12th. Like that would be a very bespoke performance for a guy like him. So don't fall too much in love with this value column. It's more so you need 55 points as a floor.
By the way, if he's doing that, then other play stiff guys are finishing second.
Exactly.
There's probably someone else who's doing better.
And then Fincham, people may remember him from leading a bunch of laps at Talladega. There's nuance, that there's context. He was the only person not fuel saving, so of course he flew up to the front. That does not mean he's fast. It just means that he wanted his sponsors to be seen. Like that's really all it comes down to.
Which, by the way, is not okay. Yeah, not a bad plan. Like, hey, let me lead a few laps here. I know I'm not winning anyway. I'll hang around.
I mean, my good friend Dennis, he's got a brand and he's got a deal with Hayek Motorsports. His brand gets displayed on one of the iRacing eNASCAR cars, and I see him like rooting, obviously for his team to do well, but really it's just like screen time is the biggest thing with these guys. So you see it all the time in the lower series, like guys will do weird shit just to get on TV if you otherwise wouldn't be.
Speaking of, we got to get a DFS Army logo out there soon. Anyway, I'm only 49 minutes over my projected time of how long this episode would take. So really quick, I want to do a run of the simulator. Then we'll do a quick run, a quick setup of the domination station. Then we'll do our win picks and get you out of here. Before we do that, I think this week, now listen, Fast Lap is optimized for traditional oval racetracks, not road courses, and not drafting style tracks. So take this with a grain of salt. But we will give this a run. I actually want to use the Sim Wizard this week. We've never really used that. So Taco, I'm going to get you to go through this. I want you to pick 1 or 2 drivers, or I think you can do up to 6. 3 or more. So I need 3 drivers you think are most likely to dominate this race.
I mean, it would be Logano, and then
and this is sorted by total laps led at Atlanta. So
and this isn't gonna like overly boost them or anything, right?
It won't overly boost them for
all right, perfect.
play tracks.
I mean, shit, it's just got to be the 3 Penske drivers. I don't see how it could be anyone else.
Okay, we'll go next. Kevin, I need a couple guys you think will overperform today. I know we identified guys like Briscoe, like Gibbs, maybe Austin Hill. I need give me 3 drivers you think might overperform today.
Overperform. How about Herbst?
Yeah, I like Herbst.
Throw Chase Briscoe in there.
Like Briscoe.
Love that.
It's hard to say overperform.
Ty Gibbs, maybe, because his historical performances aren't great, but we know he's capable.
Yeah, I'll do that. Ty Gibbs. I like that.
Okay, perfect. Next up, who do we think is going to underperform based on maybe some of their projections?
Chad Fincham.
Chad Fincham.
We're just going with the turds.
No.
How about Larson? How about
SPG? He's
Larson?
kind of overperformed a bit. Larson's a good one.
Larson, SPG, perfect. Who do you think's going to win? I think I'll take a win pick from both of you guys.
Well, do you want an actual win pick? We're about to do that anyway.
Actually, yeah. We'll Taco save yours. Kev, who do you think are going to win?
Mm-hmm.
We'll guess again. I'm not betting on this, but I'll throw in. How about for my winner? Let's go, Chris Bell.
Christopher Bell, like it. Taco, how wild do we expect this race to be versus a typical Atlanta race?
I want to say normal.
Just kind of I don't
know if last night's going to carry over, because last night was about as wild as possible. I think they sucked all the wild out of this weekend. I think it's going to go normal.
All right. And lastly, tire wear won't really matter at Atlanta, so we can let that go. What this will do is set up and run the simulation with your opinions tied in. We'll let that run. Most likely winner, Bubba Wallace. No surprise there. He's a guy that's run towards the top. Joey Logano. But you can see kind of how flat this is. And we look at this as a typical weekend where it's much more dialed in. These are much more tighter ranges of expectation. But Bubba Wallace, let's sort by optimal. So this is the percent time across these 10,000 simulations. This driver was in the optimal lineup. I think one thing that stands out here, a lot of Denny Hamlin.
I saw him on the top of your chart there for average finish too.
Yeah. So he's a guy that's popping off a lot of Hocevar, a lot of Chastain in that lineup, despite him starting a little higher than maybe we would like.
I mean, surely it's not caring about the extra Toyota juice this year, right?
No, none of that. There's a specific harness for it for plate racing, and like I said, not dialed in as well as traditional tracks. We're going to go to North Wilkesboro and have a lot of fun next week.
Oh, the whole next month is just nothing but short tracks for you. You're going to love it.
I would use that. I would look forward to that. One thing I did want to look at is see what its top cash lineup is. So this lineup: Hamlin, Briscoe, Hocevar, Chastain, Wallace, SVG.
Interesting. I know it loves at the super speedways. I know it's loved Hocevar called the Talladega win.
Yeah,
just because of how how insanely well he's been doing without wrecking. That's really the most impressive part. It's just his lack of DNFs.
And I think another thing, this, like we talked about when it comes to value, this sim will inherently chase value, which isn't necessarily the way to go. So, like I said, this is going to become much more useful from this week on. But still, I think we've seen it make some interesting calls. It was very big on Chase Briscoe last week.
Yeah.
It was very big on Taylor Gray last week. So sometimes these win picks are useful.
Yeah.
Okay, Taco, let's go to the real optimization station over here. The domination station, excuse me. How are you setting this up this week? And I know there's a bunch of different ways to set this up.
Yeah, I'm going nuts on the groups here. Honestly, I think at most 2, because that's what the data has shown us. We've seen 2 from the top 10, I think, in 4 of the last 6 races. So I would love to do at most 1. I think at most 1 is very viable if you are bankrolling it, looking to play a bunch of place differential, avoid the front, and just kind of min cash your way to a good profitable day. That is always an option at super speedways. That's a respectable option. You could even use the DS to do the mix match cash strategy here as well, where you kind of cast a net of just various different place differential guys and permutations of them. But
could definitely do 2 runs. Also,
yeah,
a single and a double. Yeah,
yeah,
I do not mind that.
Just like we did last week. That last week getting that Carnage run in helped so much with how that race ended up. And again, this could have a 25 car wreck. It could also go green. The Cup Series, it's not as the Carnage is not anywhere as guaranteed as the Truck Series and the O'Reilly Series for sure. So 2 runs, real smart way to go about this. For just if you're doing just one kind of generic run, you could also add a group roll of taking one of the top 4 or top 6 starters, limiting to 1. So maybe you get 1 lap leader like Logano or something, right? And then you're pairing it with maybe a 9th place guy if you're doing your 2 from the top 10. But stack between 0 and 4 of Logano, Blaney, Larson, and I guess Austin Dillon, but you're never playing him anyway. So you're not, because we don't really see 1st and 2nd together, and we're already saying if 1st and 2nd is optimal together, then whatever, bro, don't care.
We don't want to win.
Yeah.
I don't want to win like that.
So I would do that for all lineups.
Tournament mode, 2 uniques, Taco?
Yeah, 2 uniques in this one. I usually never use uniques, but super speedways, don't mind it.
Randomization?
Like 16%, a bit lower than your usual super spedrays.
Are you restricting salary cap at all?
Yeah, I was going to restrict it to maybe 49.5 or 49.
I don't necessarily recommend
it. Was
that.
It was way more useful yesterday. Yesterday, having the salary cap jacked down made the lineup so much better because it was over forcing some of the more expensive guys a lot nicer. Granted, I wish it let me keep a lot of the Algyro was trying to give me, quite frankly, here. But another one is maybe even if you're doing a Carnage run, you can even do a force at least 1 player under 20% owned to get your ownership down. That's a very viable way, a very valid way to go about this. Again,
my
max maybe 25% real low with some exceptions for the Zane Smiths of the world.
You want to hear what my highest to lowest P owned is?
What
right now on 150 lineup run with a little bit of bit of manipulation?
He's under 200.
The highest that it's way under. The highest that I can even generate is 227%.
Yeah.
But when I get to the lowest, 56%.
Hell yeah.
I have a lineup here that generated with Keselowski, Suarez, McDowell, Zilich, Nemechek, and Herbst that combines for 56%.
It's not even a bad lineup. Yeah. I would not mind a lineup like that at all. So a lot of different tools you can use.
I'm in love with it.
Get your ownership lower.
Right.
Yeah. You're really going to need to hammer on this. You're probably going to do a couple different runs, play with some settings, but as a baseline, your baseline run, just to summarize, tournament road, 2 unique players. We're doing 150 lineups. The domination station, you can do up to 600. We just do 150 as kind of like a simulated mini max run. Randomization somewhere in the area of 16%, a little less if you think this will be a calm race, a little more if you think it'll be a more chaotic race. You do want a player grouping. You can do a lot of different things, but as a start, make sure you're only getting 0 to 1 of those top 5 starters. At most 2 dominators, a global max of 25%, and then bump up the guys that you want a little more than that in. And then you can let it run. It'll give you 150 lineups.
Boom.
Just that easy. Yeah. And this can become your baseline for your mini-max run or whatever run you're doing. And like I said, more so than ever, this is definitely a week where you want to get in and maximize your advantage in the field when it comes to strategy. Really, really hammer out some of these specifics, make some stands, make some groupings, so you have lineups that satisfy those 5 constraints we talked about when it comes to finding an optimal lineup. Yeah,
and you're gonna have to add mins on guys if you want to, take some shots at guys in the top 10. It's really not going to give you those. I think you got to force some Logano for him to even be used, which is perfectly valid here.
Okay, now for those of you who have not joined us before, we do a win pick every week, and we do a best DFS pick every week, and the chat makes a pick as well. So I want the chat to start putting their win pick in. Comment who you think is going to win this race. Last week, you guys had Denny Hamlin finish 3rd. I had Kyle Larson finish 34th. Well, you guys put your win picks in. Kev, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're the master. You're the owner.
No.
I need your sales pitch here for DFSarmy.com. Better than ever right now.
They got our pitches already, but reminder, Fast Lap is the code. You not only get access to the Fast Lap and DFS Army VIP, all the good stuff we have going on, but just know that in the background, nonstop back testing is going on the tools, on the domination station. We are putting together formulas for you guys to follow and take down more tournaments. Yeah. Stefan, I was told I was not supposed to turn my camera on, as Brady and Taco are camera off guys. So they kind of forced me to go voice only.
This is just the boys chatting. The chat, we can't see the chat. We're just chatting with our friends about a NASCAR race. That's just the vibe. DFSarmy.com/pricing. Code FastLap gets you access to everything. Best deal we've ever had. But let's make some picks. Let me see. Herbst, the bad cash play. I don't think so. I don't mind playing Herbst. I mean, it probably isn't in my main cash lineup, but
probably go Gregson over him. But if you already got him, maybe.
I dumped a GPP run in a cash contest last week by accident. It really ruined my.
My day. that might work here.
Wallace, Elliott, Riley Herbst. I like that.
Wow.
Carson Hocevar, Kez, Suarez. I don't think we're going to get any consensus here. So, Taco, give me a couple names that you're seeing a lot. We'll run a poll here.
Seeing Kez, seeing Elliott, those
Chase.
Two for sure. We don't know. We need more people to pull up.
Wallace, I saw.
Bubba, yeah, that should be a good.
Wow, this has been tracked all year. I didn't even notice this. Look at that.
Kez, Elliott, and there was a Suarez, I think, right? We'll put Suarez in.
Sure.
Who's winning here?
Well, that's what we're about to find out.
Okay.
We both got Kyle Larson 30 forward. Kyle Larson has been pretty fucking awful to us this year, at least for the on the winner side of things.
All right, chat. 1 for Keselowski, 2 for Chase Elliott, 3 for Bubba Wallace, 4 for Daniel Suarez. You just put the number in the chat. Number 1 for Braz Keselowski, number 2 for Chase Elliott, number 3 for Bubba Wallace, number 4 for Daniel Suarez. And so I think historically what we figured out, Kev, is Taco is better at making straight DFS picks, and it's definitely tightened up, but I was a little more consistent with my win picks, but now Taco's caught me in that as well.
Man, so I got 2 SPG wins. Who gives a shit?
Taco going crazy. How about all this Kez love in the chat?
I'm a lot of Kez, a lot of Elliott. Elliott might be the show. Taco, who are you picking today?
I will be picking one. I mean, I got to pick my boy here. This just makes way too much sense. Mr. Chase Elliott. This is really a Bill Elliott pick in disguise. But, I can't really go wrong with Chase Elliott. I haven't picked him all year. It seems like a good time to take him now. I think Hendrick's, in a better spot than they've been. And this is just his track, man.
I'm going to go stick with my guns. I'm going with Slick Bill Byron. I love his form right now. He's really strong on big racetracks.
Chat might be with me here.
It looks like Chat's going to go with Chase Elliott.
Oh.
Okay.
The chat has been copying us the last several weeks after being so unique to start the year.
I don't know what that poll functionality was, but that's pretty cool too. We just learned something new you can do with the chat.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Getting chat involved, man. They're the
I like it.
The true third man.
Okay, now we're gonna go for our best DFS play of the day.
Brady, please, Brady.
What?
Please
what?
Please don't take him.
You're picking first.
Is it my week to pick first?
Yeah,
I thought you were picking first.
So,
Well,
real quick,
we're chilling then.
We do best DFS play. So this is who we think is going to score the most points. I got another negative last week with Kyle Larson, who was looking so good. For me and Taco, we can only use one driver once all season. And there's Taco. He's
there. He is. Okay, I thought I was picking second. I'd have to beg. So you got some free begging audio there, but yeah.
But chat, I suspect you'll copy Taco here. But chat, I need your best DFS pick for this week. Not necessarily who's going to win, who's going to score the most points. And Kev, my DFS picks have been terrible, so I might get some help from you here.
They could pick Reddick, and we can't because we've already used them to varying levels of success.
You've already used you
already used Reddick.
What about Willie B? Have you used him?
Have I used Byron? Should I go double?
It's got to be either Byron or Bell.
I can't use Bell. But
I was thinking you could maybe even use Austin Hill or Gregson here.
Austin Hill's not a bad show. Gregson's a little tougher, but I could really make some ground up with a double Byron performance.
There's also a dinger play, unless you've used him already.
But here's the other thing we got to consider, Kev. Hendrick's going to turn on during the chase. And am I going to want Byron down the road at a Kansas or at a Las Vegas or a Charlotte?
I mean, you want the names later on, but I would say, I mean, if you wanted to save the name, if I was looking at this track, looking to save a name, like a stud name, and go with like a cheaper guy that could put up a number.
Yeah.
I mean, Austin Hill, you'll never use him again. That's a guy that I
don't think I'll use Noah Gregson either.
No, neither one of those guys.
Super speedways, I think you usually want to burn the bottom of the field here just because.
I think we go Noah Gregson.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick.
All right,
that's fair.
All right, what does chat like?
Noah Gregson, as you said, your DFS plays haven't been
winning. They've been terrible, dude.
Fade it.
Zane Smith, Reddick, Gregson, Byron, guy, and then JT says, looks like chat might like Reddick.
Oh, Reddick has Reddick.
Yeah, they can pick Reddick and we can't. So
yeah. They had a bomb with Reddick earlier in the year. They're doubling down. I like that. Okay, there we go. Picks are in. I'll skip so you can look at betting odds. I don't do a lot of betting on plate tracks. They're just so volatile. My kind of have fun way to approach these races is I take a unit, say it's $100. I do $25 on a stage 1 pick, a stage 2 pick, and a win pick, and I save $25 to place at the start of the third stage if my day's been terrible. That's just how I approach this to have fun. I think it's so difficult to make money on these races that are so chaotic. Like I said, my win pick's William Byron. He's starting to shorten up. Taco, Kev, do you see anything on this board that gives you any interest, or you kind of just punt these from a betting perspective?
Yeah, I'm not a bet on NASCAR guy, so I don't want to give anybody advice that I'm not doing.
Yeah, and all I'm doing so far is I need to get off of Zane, and I think when I do it, my DFS runs, unfortunately, because I'm sitting on a very hefty bet on Kalshi of Zane Smith top 20, 53%.
Yeah,
I think he has a much better odds than a coin flip of getting a top 20 there. I think pick 6 could be interesting.
Yeah, our meta on the pick 6 stuff has just kind of been worse on these plate tracks, and just hope for guys to get there's no reason that Ryan Blaney is going to finish any higher than Denny Hamlin. The DNF rate is the same for everyone. So
and the hit rates on most of these guys are probably pretty ass.
Yeah.
And then you can just mix and mash worses, like groups of 3 worses, because that's really the only way you're going. Like Hamlin worse seems like a pretty obvious one.
What I wouldn't get in the habit of doing is trying to snipe bettors. Because track history and just the nature of plate racing, it's so unpredictable and not it's just not useful.
Watch this race be race be quiet and carnage free.
definitely could happen.
That's why we do the 2-run strategy. I think it's a good way to go about this.
Is the home run derby tonight? When's it? Oh, tomorrow. Shout out the home run derby. Anyway, 2 hours and 9 minutes. Maybe our longest show of I think we had a 2.5 hour one earlier this season, but it's been great.
They're going to blame me for this. They're all going to point at me and say, you were on. You made it long.
No, it was great to have Kev back. We like to bring you in for the plate races for sure, but feel free to join any week.
We love Geek. It's best ball season, baby.
Yes.
Best ball
It's
season.
Draft-a-palooza season.
Hell yeah. We're drafting
100%.
best ball teams live tomorrow night. Best ball Draft-a-palooza returns at 8 p.m. Those are the crazier ones, guys. The late night ones. Sometimes gummies are involved. Just letting you know.
Yeah. Oh boy. Blue moons and gummies.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
And Taco, as in a conversation together, as I'm running nonstop back testing for NFL, and I'm honing in. I've now figured out a couple little things, but I've got thousands and thousands of back test runs happening for just to try to hone in on the best settings. Might need to do that for a NASCAR. We might need to get a little NASCAR, math action going on the DOM station to figure out that perfect approach. And it's very doable, man. It's very doable now. I walk away. My computer's like, overnight run, come back in the morning. We'll have done thousands and thousands of back tests constantly. So a lot of exciting capabilities happening right now in the space that we're going to continue to lean into.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
we are leveling up the NASCAR product. Me and Taco had a conversation yesterday after the show of different ideas to level it up. We are going to make this the most valuable subscription in the entire industry over the course of the next 6 months. A great time to get involved. And if you want to get involved, dfsarmy.com/NASCAR or /pricing. Links in the bio for that. Get signed up today. Get access to everything. And I mean everything, and everything that we do in the future. Use code FASTLAP for 15% off any membership. Great time to get involved. And like Taco said earlier, the run of tracks we're about to go on. I can't wait. It should be very fun. Good luck today, everybody. Taco, you got to take it away for us.
All right, for Geek, helmets up tonight, and let's go make some money out there in Hotlanta, baby.
Let's go.